bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Who is this man standing across from me? I barely recognize him because he rolled up to the studios at High Falls today in a flash new ride. The saga of Gene's car is over. We've got a new car for Gino, and he's a new man, a renewed spirit after a month plus of going through hell after getting in a car accident.
I did have to go on the corner commercial of Mill after the show. Like, okay, I'm waiting for my ride.
Yeah,
here it is.
Jumping on the school bus in the morning to go to work, and then
Do you like my prepubescent voice I'm using here?
Gene, we got to make sure you're wearing a coat. We don't want you to catch cold while you're waiting for your ride there on the corner. Feels good to get that over.
Feels good, and they're a proud advertiser. Mike on track gave me the Chuck Muncie discount.
Which you can ask for if you go to On Track.
Yeah, right.
If you're a regular and you're in need of a car here in the sports bar, you go to On Track and you say, hey, what's the Chuck Muncie discount?
So you get to the final price and everything else, and like, okay, does that include the Chuck Muncie discount? Aha!
Now you've unlocked a
savings.
new level of savings, a brand new level of savings. Well, glad Mike and On Track were able to hook you up, and it's got to feel good to get. I know how that feels to get that weight off your chest and to get a little sense of normalcy and routine back.
You know, there's like a mental hurdle I've got to get over, though, because I'm driving this car, but I'm only driving this car because, well, this accident happened. But I'm sure at some point I'll maybe forget about it, or I'll think about it less.
Because the car that was in the accident was an older vehicle than this vehicle, obviously. Have you experienced some of the new toys that the newer cars have? Because every time I've rented a car in the last couple of years, I'm like, man, I'm really missing out. Like, there's some features in cars now that make driving such a breeze. I get it a little bit with my wife's car, but I still drive a 2010 Toyota 4Runner. I'm going to drive that thing till the wheels come off. I'm approaching 200,000 miles, and admittedly, it doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles that a newer car has.
Step one, I'm just driving along. Lane departure. Woo, I'm like, lane departure? No. So, like, you do you get that a little bit. That's number one. Yeah, I've got to sit down and kind of go through all that.
A little homework. Yeah. They make driving a lot of fun now with all the new safety features and everything that they have, all the new bells and whistles inside the new car. We welcome you into the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us, and thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. You can get us in the free-to-download Odyssey app. Search The Fan Rochester. Find us on YouTube. We're streaming on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. You get us on your smart device as well when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Who's calling the shots with the Minnesota Vikings? And is Sam Darnold actually going to stay in Minnesota? We know that he's not going to be franchise tagged, but is Minnesota really going to be the team that offers Sam Darnold the best deal? We'll talk to Matthew Collar, the Purple Insider, 585 Roots. He's stopping by in the 4 o'clock hour.
Love Matthew Collar, and again, he went out to Minnesota, and he's one of the guys you go to when it comes to Viking stuff. But we can ask him NFL stuff at large. Did you see Sam Darnold? He was in the news last night at Josh Allen's bachelor party.
Really?
Yeah. So Sam Darnold was there. Also, Christian Kirk was at the bachelor party, who I don't know the connection. Somebody's got to do a little digging on that. But apparently Kirk and Allen have been friends. And then, coincidentally or not, Christian Kirk getting released today by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Right. Everybody picking up on that. He's going to be a Buffalo Bill. Okay, easy on that. But we're having Matthew on to talk about, all right, what are the Vikings doing here? Because this is an asset. Yes, it would cost you some money. Why not just tag the guy? That's what I'm trying to figure out here.
Selfishly, can I hijack our conversation with Matthew for just a few seconds? Because today marks the beginning of the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament. And this Minnesota boy left part of my heart in Minnesota. My high school team, the East Grand Forks Senior High Green Wave, play tonight at 8 o'clock, and I know how big of a hockey guy Collar is. I know he's more focused on the Vikings nowadays, but I got to get his take on the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament.
Look, Matthew is like me. We're a little follically impaired, so I don't think he's going to be talking about the flow.
Nope, we won't need to talk about lettuce. I just want to know who's good. Tell me who's good. Are the Cake Eaters good? Is Edina? Who's good this year? There's a vibe. There's an energy in that city, in Minneapolis, when the state high school hockey tournament goes on, and you can feel it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it's funny. Like, I think if you say high school football, that's Texas. If you say high school basketball, that's Indiana. I know there's this movie with Gene Hackman at some time you're going to have to sit down and watch. There,
Never
Daniel.
heard of him.
Just passed. And then for hockey, yes, that would be certainly Minnesota being the state that owns high school.
Yeah, it's a scene, and it's funny that the head coach of my high school team, who's representing us, in this year's tournament, grew up next door to my best friend. So I literally watched this kid grow up. He's a few years younger than us, but he grew up with his old man being a head coach. His old man was a head coach. He follows his old man's footsteps. He becomes a head coach. He's taken him to states a bunch of times. So we're pulling for Palma. We're pulling for. I'll be the dork streaming the Minnesota State high school hockey tournament tonight. And I'm going to pull caller aside just for a couple. Hey man, what's the vibe like in Minneapolis with the tourney going on?
I would predict he wouldn't have any idea.
Really?
Yep.
He's a hockey guy.
He is, but
No.
hopefully I'm trying to manage your
Well,
expectations.
okay. Maybe he'll brush me off. That's fine. And as we always do on a Wednesday, we get some winners from PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetMGM network. He is our Odyssey Sports betting insider, and Insider Calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
Yeah, it's the final week of the regular season here in college basketball. Some tournaments already getting underway shortly, but we will talk to Matthew about some not Matthew. We're going to talk to PJ coming up about some of the best plays here for tonight, as well as, hey, the big tournaments happening next week. It's our time. And PJ Glasser, when it comes to college basketball, trust me, listen to him for 1 minute. You're like, oh, okay, this is a guy that I want to listen to because your brackets are going to be coming in your direction. How many days is that from now? That would be on the 10th. So 17th, Danger? 12 days. We not quite 9 yet. But,
Okay.
12 days from now, you'll get your bracket. Yeah, you want a winning bracket, so make it part of your week. Make sure you listen to PJ Glasser, if not on the BetMGM network, every Wednesday at 3:25 here.
We have time for your calls throughout the course of the afternoon. You can feel free to join us at any time. Pull up a stool on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. 866-4FAN is our phone number, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
I love when you go on like holiday break, Christmas break, or maybe for me it's 4th of July, and hey, what day of the week is it? You don't really know. It's kind of, you're just so relaxed, you don't even know. I would imagine maybe if you're an NFL player that's out of a little bit of rhythm, most people would have their bachelor party on a Saturday night or on a Friday night. No, for Josh Allen, he had his bachelor party on a Tuesday night. Who knew that was coming up until, hey, look up in the stands at the Golf League tournament. This is taking place down in Florida, and there's Josh Allen, and Dalton Kincaid is up there. So is Sam Darnold. So he's got a few of his bros up there cheering on Tiger Woods last night. And then, Danger, I had Dan DeLorean pull this, and this he had to track down. And this is why Dan DeLorean is the bounty hunter here. Josh Allen did give an interview last night. He wasn't so far gone on his own bachelor party that he couldn't sit down with ESPN and just get his thoughts. And, just had to include the question here. You get an idea where Josh Allen's head is at these days.
Transition to the offseason. Football aside, what do you plan on doing in the offseason? I know you're here having some of the boys' trip. I always see you at the Masters every year. What's on the offseason agenda for you from a fun perspective?
From a fun perspective, obviously this is a pretty cool week for me.
Yeah.
At the same time, just honestly doing whatever my fiance wants to do right now. Right?
There you go.
I'm a smart man. I get it. She was in Buffalo this past season, and
I'm assuming he wants it out.
Whatever I can do to help out, that's what I'm gonna do.
Hard left.
But there's some golf involved in there too.
Smart man. Smart man.
Wow.
Well trained.
Wow.
Knows his role. It's the off season. Got to do what she wants. This is my week. I'm going to let loose. What I'm doing this week is cool. I got my bros with me. We're watching the Golf League. Leave me alone. But when it's done, what am I doing this offseason? Whatever she wants.
There's a lot there. Let's just point this out, right? Whatever she wants. Did Tom Brady have that attitude? Sorry. I mean, it's like, hey, his marriage busted up, but that's the correct attitude, I guess, if you're trying to have a partnership there. Also, gosh, she's based in L.A. How many years if this is truly going to be a long-term partnership between these two.
Yeah, low key, that's kind of a slap in the face to Buffalo, isn't it? Like, oh, she spent all season in Buffalo. If she's from L.A., like that's what she's accustomed to. She spent all season in Buffalo. Now I got to do everything she wants me to do this off season. It's not an insult. Indirectly, if you dig, it kind of is like she had to spend her winter in Buffalo, her fall in Buffalo. Yeah. She did, and now you have to do what she wants you to do. If you're going to an award show, if you're going to a premiere, if you're on the red carpet, you're doing that because she wants you to do that. Good.
I'm glad they have Josh Allen locked up.
Yeah.
I mean, Wayne Gretzky was the greatest all-time playing up in Edmonton until he met an actress, and she basically
We got to move.
We got to move.
Yeah.
And then the Edmonton Oilers owner was cheap at the time, so
it worked out. I mean, these things always seem to work out unless they don't work out. And when they don't work out, like the Dallas Mavericks, it just doesn't work out, right? Like you tell right away, okay, this isn't happening.
I like the he starts making the point. Listen, that was a Brandon Bean. Listen,
yeah. I think you're a product of your environment,
yeah.
and I imagine Josh Allen spends a lot of time talking with Brandon Bean, and Brandon Bean spends a lot of time talking with Josh Allen. The two are married essentially, and they're going to be their success is married. They're married to each other in terms of their success, and I imagine that when you get news here this off season about players requesting trades or players becoming free agents, you're probably going to, if you're Brandon Bean, reach out to Josh Allen and say, hey, saw that you're with Christian Kirk. What's the deal?
Well, obviously they're friends, but I don't know how.
I don't think, well, I'll just put this out there. Out of the names that we're hearing, Christian Kirk to me doesn't feel like a fit in Buffalo.
Why is that?
Plays the majority of his snaps in the slot. You don't need him there. DK Metcalf, I'm listening. I am listening. If DK Metcalf has become available, as has been reported, and is looking to be traded, and the Seahawks are exploring that trade, with him entering the last year of his second deal, do a base salary of $18 million, looking for an extension as part of the trade, do that deal. Yes, that's the guy that you put on the outside. That's the guy. While I wouldn't call him a wide receiver one, because you look at his numbers and you're like, this is not a wide receiver one. Like, he's not at the same level as a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase, but he can do the things that you need somebody in that offense to do at wide receiver on the outside. That's the guy.
Couple thoughts here. I hear what you're saying. I understand that. You have a guy you drafted in Keon Coleman who you would hope would have developed into the next DK Metcalf. Why not? Why wait? Go get DK Metcalf himself. I'd also say this, Danger, because the wide receiver position, as long as you have other things in place, is it not sort of becoming the running back position, meaning, hey, you can draft somebody, and within a year or two, if that wide receiver is doing what they're supposed to be doing, there's the production. You don't have to spend all that. Seattle today not releasing DK Metcalf. They released Tyler Lockett.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have a lot of finger crawl here names that we're all familiar with, mainly because of fantasy football, and we're addicted to this league. But are those guys that have their best years of football ahead of them? This is a position, the wide receiver position, that up until last year, the Bills were pretty much ignored in the draft.
Yeah. Well, I could see the Bills making a play. Here's the rub. If a team really wanted to back up the Brinks truck for DK Metcalf, that team also resides in the AFC East. It's the New England Patriots. They've not been shy about their desire to acquire weapons for Drake May. And Metcalf would be on top of the list for me. So very real possibility if you're Brandon Bean. You have the framework of a trade. You have the framework of an extension. And New England comes in with more money. Metcalf has said he would prefer a contender. Well, I think they will test that notion if a team like New England decides they want to pay him, greater than $20 20 to 25 a year to be their wide receiver one.
Do you remember the wide receiver? This would be righting a wrong because every Patriot fan was like, oh, DK Metcalf and Belichick because he's such a good person.
N'Keal Harry.
Thank you.
2019.
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, the 2019 draft class for wide receiver has been turbulent. I mean, when you look at who was taken in that year's draft, there's been trades, there's been release. I mean, it's been sloppy. They're all over the place. Debo is part of that. He's going to be traded. You mentioned N'Keal Harry. He's been everywhere. Deontay Johnson was part of that draft class, I want to say.
Gosh, you had
Hollywood Brown was in that draft class.
Yeah, the first receiver was Marquise Brown.
Yep.
Then the second receiver, N'Keal Harry. Then you go Debo.
A.J. Brown was also.
Brown, Mecole.
Yep.
Gosh, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Yikes.
Forgot about him. Paris Campbell. Ugh. Andy Isabella. You would think Andy Isabella was like from 2015. No, it did not quite work out. And then 2 picks later, DK Metcalf goes. Deontay Johnson, McLaurin in the 3rd round. Boy, Hunter Renfrow. Remember we were all hot and bothered about Hunter Renfrow? And then that didn't.
He had a moment where he shined bright. Yeah, that draft class, it's 2019, right? The 2019 draft class? That wide receiver draft class is all over the place. They're nowhere near where they were with their original teams, except for Metcalf. Metcalf's been there. And, he's on an expiring deal, his 2nd deal with Seattle. I would love that for the Bills. That's one that I think a lot of people would get excited about. I think that's one that would work out for the Buffalo Bills.
I think you have to look at the position that Cooper had and how could we get better. I think Amari Cooper did just fine, but again, I'm probably they could get Cooper back on the cheap, but can you do better? And I think that's what leads me to thinking, all right, maybe you say Kirk. I don't know. I've read a lot of things he plays on the outside too. Got to kind of dig into that just a little bit.
Yeah, the Jags saved more than $10 million in salary cap space by releasing him. He was heading into the final year of his 4-year, $72 million contract from back in 2022. Wow. Remember when he signed that deal? We're like, the Jags are drunk. What are they doing? They're signing him from Arizona. Now, there is another bit of news revolving around the Buffalo Bills, and this is a guy that I think a lot of people had on their checklist for the offseason for Brandon Beane. You can go ahead and cross it off because the Raiders went and signed their Pro Bowl defensive end Max Crosby to a new 3-year, $106.5 million extension, including $91.5 million guaranteed. You have a new highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. His name is Max, with 2 X's, Crosby.
Here's my biggest takeaway on that. And honestly, Danger, I didn't think the Raiders were going to trade Max Crosby. If you have Pete Carroll coming in and Crosby already kind of developing that rapport, I'm like, this doesn't fit like he wants out. Well, my biggest takeaway is, all right, we all want Myles Garrett, right? Myles Garrett you cannot trade for unless the numbers that you see there for Max Crosby, you have to be better than that. That's the starting point. So you got to go to your owner, number one, and get the sign-off on that, which I would think Terry Pegula would be okay, seeing that he pays only attention to the Buffalo Bills and not the Sabres these days. But
so much so that the Bills are bleeding into the Sabres. What
the God?
The thing with Garrett, with each passing day, and just from some of the talking heads that you hear sharing the rumors that they heard from the NFL scouting combine last week in Indianapolis, I don't think the Browns are going to trade him. I actually don't think Andrew Berry wants to trade that guy. I don't think he's going to trade that guy. I know that a lot of times they say, it's a smokescreen, it's a season of lying. We talk about it all the time. This is one instance where I'm like, no, even if it's not Berry, maybe it's the owner, whoever it is, we're not moving on from that guy.
I think it's good for Buffalo or any team that wants to do this. If you're a Bills fan, you don't want that trade to happen prior to the draft. Ultimately, in a year where, all right, go for it. You want to win now. Why give up pick 30? Pick 30 is obviously got to be included in any trade for Myles Garrett, or any other team has to include their first-round pick. Wouldn't you want to see this Bills team with with Kenneth Grant maybe, or some other beefy guy you compare on the inside. Like, that's how you retool this defensive line. You can find somebody at pick 30 or maybe move up a few spots there. What if this happens after the draft? And that's why I'm curious, Danger, that the longer this goes on and then we hit free agency and then we're going to hit the draft, okay, what is in it for Cleveland other than just, let's try to save face here and PR-wise?
I don't think they're going to move him. I don't think they're going to move him. You know, for as exciting a concept and a prospect as it is to envision Myles Garrett lining up on your defensive line, I don't think Cleveland's going to move him. I've heard more than one person mention that from outside the combine, from as they're reviewing their rumors that what they say in Cleveland about Myles Garrett is actually true. They don't want him to leave. Now, maybe that all gets remedied. Myles Garrett gets himself a new extension with the Browns that makes him obviously a higher paid player than Max Crosby, higher than what the Cowboys are going to give Micah Parsons, and he gets what he wants ultimately, which is a new deal. He stays in Cleveland. I could certainly see that happening.
So what'll change the story is, like, can we assume that the Browns have gone to Myles Garrett and be like, okay, Myles, like, you see what Max Crosby, or maybe this is before, here's your new contract.
Yeah.
They haven't done that yet?
That's what we don't know.
I would think that if you want to keep Myles Garrett, that would have been step number one. And I don't think that's happened yet.
Right, because the Browns, dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things. The Browns just paid him a couple of years ago.
Right.
So in their world, well, why does he want a new deal? We took care of him.
Well, if Myles Garrett really wanted out, his representation would have been like, we turn this offer down. Unless the representation's trying to negotiate something, maybe this does happen, you wouldn't want that going out into the media. I think that's a future part of the storyline here, too, is that we'll find out about some offer that was turned down.
Another Raiders note, Gardner Minshew won't be back next year. I know a lot of Raider fans are very upset about that. He was in 10 games for the Raiders last season, 2-7 over the course of 9 starts.
9 times.
And the Eagles re-signed their all-pro linebacker, Zach Baugh. He got a 3-year, $51 million contract extension, $34 million guaranteed at signing, and additional $1.5 million in incentives and escalators. Lots of moves, other players being released by their teams trying to get cap compliant here and getting ready for the start of the league year next year.
Does Brandon Beane do this on a Friday afternoon?
When announce extensions or who's been released?
Who's he releasing? I'm thinking maybe Friday's show would be interesting.
Yeah, could be. Well, it'll be an interesting week leading up to legal tampering at the beginning of next week. We get to PJ Glasser here, the host of Send It In on the BetMGM Network, our Odyssey Sports betting insider. We'll get some wins from not just tonight's action on the college hardwood, but also the Arnold Palmers this weekend. You turn on a little golf. Nice weather down south. And we'll get some of PJ's takes from the PGA Tour as well. That's coming up next on The Fan.
Rochester Sports Update.
Well, if you're a Bills fan hoping the team would go after Max Crosby, cross him off your list. Crosby getting a 3-year, $106.5 million extension from Vegas, $91.5 guaranteed. Crosby now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Steve Tasker talking about Crosby getting paid.
I think a lot of people like Max Crosby because you just get the feeling when you watch him play, the guy doesn't have an off switch.
No.
I thought that would be a guy the Bills might have a shot at early on in the free, because with the new head coach, Pete Carroll, coming in, maybe they'd wipe the decks clean, start with, save the money, but obviously not. And I think they're smart too to do it.
Meanwhile, Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Buffalo Sabres, new low point last night, losing at home to the team with the worst record in the league, San Jose. The Sabres tomorrow night at Florida. Team Battalion, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Wednesday afternoon in the sports bar means we're getting winners from the host of Send It In and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider. PJ Glasser. Insider calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. PJ, we are a week away from some tournament action, conference tournament action, the final week of the regular season, and we're ready to make some hay with BetMGM. Appreciate you joining us as always, buddy. Let's start with a game happening, or with a team that's in your backyard there. Talk to us about Maryland and Michigan in the Big Ten tonight.
Yeah, guys, this should be a good game tonight. I really don't know what to do, like, off the initial lines, right? Michigan's favored by 2.5 right now at BetMGM, total 153.5. Feel like every week I come on with you guys and I talk about, like, one of these games being, like, a great game to bet live, and that's tonight's game, because the last 9 games that Michigan has won, you guys, have been decided by 4 points or less. It's crazy. Like, if you go through and look at their box score, every game is like a 2-point win, a 3-point win. So Michigan's kind of the perfect live betting team, because if you know if they're up by a lot, the other team's going to come back. And if they're down, you also know that they're going to come back. So it's a good line at 2.5. It could go either way. I'm just going to bet it live. Again, we're getting a lot of points, 153.5. So there should be some good kind of scoring in this game. There should be some runs where we can get some nice value. So I think the way to bet that game tonight is to take a good live line. Hopefully get like a 9.5, 10.5.
Yeah, we got a great matchup tonight. Number 5 Florida taking on number 7 Alabama. PJ, you are an Alabama grad, of course. The Crimson Tide losing a tough one at Tennessee. Florida, no problems in their last game against Texas A&M. So are we thinking Alabama? Bouncing back after that Tennessee loss, PJ?
Gene, it's a tough one to call who's going to win the game. If I had to pick it, I would lean Bama. I'd probably just take them on the money line, though, just because, again, it's probably is going to be a close game. I wouldn't feel good about laying the 3.5. The play that I like, though, guys, is the over, and it's a big number at 178.5. This is the 11th game that Bama has played, you guys, in SEC play where they're facing a ranked opponent. The previous 10, 7 of those games have had 179 or more points in it, right? So I know 178.5 looks like a big number, but usually when Bama plays in big games like this, they play against ranked teams. They're usually high-scoring affairs. The Missouri game last week was 110-98. Auburn game, 94-85. They played Kentucky earlier in the year. It was 102-97. So these are two of the best offensive teams in the country. They play at a fast pace. This is going to be a thrilling game to watch. As long as each team just kind of has their normal shooting night, we should get 179 points or more. So I like the over in the game.
He's PJ Glasser. Send It In and Odyssey Sports Betting Insider. Hear him on the BetMGM Network and wherever you get your shows. In the Big East, you've got UConn, a vulnerable UConn versus Marquette tonight, PJ. Which direction are you leaning here?
Going with the Huskies tonight, you guys. I'd take a -3.5, right? This is one of those games where you get a ranked team in Marquette at an unranked team, and the unranked team is favored in UConn. I don't like either of these teams come tournament time. I think a lot of people is going to see UConn on that 8-9 seed line, and, people want a big upset, right? And they're like, oh, here's UConn, the 2-time defending national champions. This is not the same team. This defense this year can't stop the parked car, you guys. They're not good on that side of the floor. So I don't like either of these teams moving forward, but UConn, the first time around that these two teams played, UConn's offense really gave Marquette issues, and I think they're going to be able to do the same again, this time being at home. So I like Connecticut tonight. I'd lay the 3.5.
PJ, back to Tennessee and the SEC because we just mentioned how they knocked off Alabama tonight, 9 p.m. on ESPN2. They head to Oxford to take on Ole Miss. Tennessee, small favorite here, 3.5. Is this a good enough team to cover that margin, PJ?
So this is a tough game, fellas, right? You got Tennessee coming off of that buzzer beater against Bama. Is there a little bit of a letdown going into this matchup against Ole Miss? I don't think there's going to be. And Ole Miss is a team that I like betting on, you guys, because they're usually matchup oriented, right? Ole Miss this year, 9-7 in SEC play. They've done a great job of beating all the teams that they're supposed to beat, right? So like the South Carolinas, LSU's, Texas, Arkansas, they're winning all those games. And then the two ranked teams that they've beaten in SEC play have been Bama and Kentucky. And Bama and Kentucky profile out very similar. Excellent offenses, play at a fast tempo, not very good on defense. And that's what makes Ole Miss tough. They like playing against teams that play at a fast tempo and score a lot of points because they're a great defensive team that force a lot of turnovers and make it tough on that elite offensive team. But they struggle versus the teams like Tennessee, the teams that also want to play great defense and are good rebounding teams and play at a slower pace. They were 0-2 against Mississippi State this season. They struggled against Texas A&M. So I like Tennessee tonight, guys. If you just want to take the money line because you're worried about, maybe a Tennessee 1 or 2 point win, I understand, but I think you're good. Anything under 3, taking the Vols minus points.
We are casting a wide net tonight with college basketball, and PJ Glasser, the host of Sending In. I feel like we've hit every conference. Maybe we haven't hit the horizon, but let's talk Big 12 because you got Colorado, you got Texas Tech going tonight, PJ, and you have take on this one as well.
I do, guys. I like Colorado tonight, plus all them points, 18.5 against Texas Tech. So it's just a great letdown spot for Texas Tech. Their last 2 games are against Houston, and then they had that huge road win against Kansas over the weekend. Texas Tech had a similar type spot about a month ago where they played Houston, Baylor, Arizona, 3 big games in a row. They came home 16.5-point favorites against Arizona State. That game went to double overtime. So Texas Tech has showed me before that they're a team that can have a letdown, and tonight's another great spot calling for it. So we'll take the Buffs, the Buffaloes, to keep it close tonight against Texas Tech.
PJ, you never let us down here. PJ, what we try to do to get through, this time here in the Northeast, Danger and I always put on as much, nice sunny images here. Right now we're watching baseball from Lakeland, Florida. Kind of close by to Lakeland is Orlando, where you've got the Arnold Palmer Invitational. You've got Scotty Scheffler in this tournament. Any thoughts on how we can play if we want a little extra action this week?
This is going to be a good one. I know it's March, and we're all excited about college basketball, but 2 great golf tournaments this week with the API, next week with the Players' Championship. Gene, you said it. Scotty's in the field this week. Rory, all the big boys. Xander's even back from injury, so it's great to see Xander back as well. I do like Rory this week, you guys, at plus 850. The last 8 years he's played at this course, he's finished in the top 10 6 times. So, Rory, this golf course really fits him well, and it makes sense. Guys, this is honestly like a major championship-type venue. The rough is so penal. It's so tough around the greens. There's water all over the course. You got to drive it long, and you got to drive it straight, and you got to be accurate, and you got to be a great ball striker. So, yeah, I like Rory this week. Ludwig Ober's another guy I like at 14-1. Russell Henley's a guy that I would look at this week, you guys, at 40-1. Russ is one of the hottest golfers in the world right now, and he's got great course history here at Bay Hill, so keep an eye on him. And then if you want a long shot, 90-1 Nick Taylor, a guy that I would look at. He finished 12th here last year. Very quietly, one of the better ball strikers on tour, and he's awesome strokes gain tee to green. He's been one of the best in his last 24 rounds played, and that's the key metric here, strokes gain tee to green. You got to have every club in the bag. You got to be clicking on all facets. So Nick Taylor, 90-1, long shot that I would look at. But you had to make me pick who would win this week, you guys. I'll go with Rory.
Yeah, PJ, one more for you because we are a baseball crazy town here in Rochester as well. And you had Lucy Burge on your show today talking about MLB futures. Is there any value in that? Is there anything out of that conversation that kind of jumps out at you that maybe we should be on here?
Does Lucy think the Red Sox are winning the World Series?
She does. Yeah.
Okay.
She absolutely death taxes and Lucy loving the Sox. You guys always. So she's all over that. Gene, there's absolutely value, right? Especially this time of the year because, everybody's soaked up in March Madness right now. Everybody's watching college basketball. NFL is obviously year-round. People are diving into the combine. They're talking about draft stuff. So, we know what spring training is, right? It's a lot of fun to go to. It's exciting that baseball's almost here, but people really aren't keeping a close eye on it. And some of these future markets are still very, you can exploit a lot of these markets. Team that I'm high on this year, fellas, the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'd keep an eye out on the Snakes out there in the NL West, right? I don't think they're going to win the division, obviously, because they play in the same division as the Dodgers. Padres are going to be good again, but over 86.5 wins, I think that's too low. They got Corbin Burns in the offseason, so now they have Burns and Gallen as their 1-2 punch at the top of that rotation. And then also very quietly in the offseason, you guys, they got Josh Naylor from Cleveland as their new first baseman. So Corbin Carroll needs to play the year that he did when he won NL Rookie of the Year. They need Ketel Marte to be really good again, but I'm big on Arizona. This was a team that made the World Series 2 years ago. I think the roster that they have this year is better than that team, so we'll go with the Snakes over 86.5 wins.
Like the rotation, I love Burns and Gallen. In fact, I would put that 1-2 against anybody in the National League, including anybody that the Dodgers would get out. Corbin Carroll's the guy, though, right? If he goes back to his form from 2 years ago, you're talking to somebody who took him in fantasy, PJ, last year, and was not too happy about it.
Yeah, Gene, the first 3 months of the year, he couldn't do anything. So I think he's a sneaky look for an MVP this year, you guys. Wow. I think Ellie De La Cruz is also somebody that I would look at. What I've been doing with MVP, unless it's just Ohtani, who's a unicorn, or it's Judge, who hits 1 million home runs, I feel like a bunch of the MVPs we're going to start seeing are guys like Acuna with obviously the advantage that these base runners have. I like betting on players that have speed and also can hit for power, right? So, if Ellie goes out this year, Corbin Carroll goes out this year, they hit 30 homers and steal 60 stolen bases. They're going to be right in the conversation. So I kind of like targeting those kind of guys. But to your point, Gene, Arizona, if they want to go over that win total, they're going to need Corbin Carroll to be the guy that he was a couple of years ago.
All right, PJ. Gino mentioned Lucy stopping by. Send it in, your show. Tell everybody more about it, where we can get more of your work. It's amazing stuff, and we're always grateful for the time.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check us out Monday through Fridays at the BetMGM Network. You can watch our show. We stream live on Twitch, on YouTube. We have a live stream on X as well, and we love people to chime in and ask their questions and comment throughout the show. So obviously, with March Madness picking up, fellas, it's a lot of fun. So it's a great time. And as I mentioned, we got 2 great golf tournaments coming up this week and next week as well.
I'm looking at some of these odds here for American League MVP, just because now you got me thinking here. And I see Aaron Judge at plus 300, Bobby Witt at plus 270. Bobby Witt's good, but maybe there's another Kansas City Royal. I can't read this name. Vinny, what at plus 1,200, would you take Vinny? What's his name, PJ?
Pascantino, Gino. Gene, I really thought you were setting me up for some Julio Rodriguez. I thought you were going that direction. But we'll go with Vinny P, too. That works. I love it.
We've seen a lot of breaking news from the NFL today, too, PJ. If it's not Ian Rappaport breaking news, it's that other guy, Tom Pella. What's his name?
Tom Pelissaro. That's a good one. Guys, I'm so mad. What an opportunity we missed when we had U.S. playing Canada in hockey. How do we not drop a Mike Modano?
Oh,
that one was right there.
All-timer legend for Team USA. PJ, enjoy the rest of your week, bud. Talk to you next.
Yep, see you, fellas.
You got it. There's PJ Glasser. Always a good sport. Just amusing us here in the sports bar with his Baltimore accent. But he's giving us winners.
Couldn't go with Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the chalky pick.
Vlad Guerrero. Also, yeah, I mean, there's also Blue Jays legend Carlos Delgado. We're gonna have to work a bracket. We're gonna have to make a Baltimore accent bracket again.
I think we hit him with that next week.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that. There he is, the host of Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. Let's take a break. We'll come back. And
I got my report card when I came home. Not only did I got kind of my hand slapped for yesterday's show, you did too.
I did? What did I do wrong? The executive producer?
The executive producer.
Not happy with me.
Not happy with the two of us.
All right.
What did we do yesterday?
I don't know, but I'm ready to get a couple of beers. That's all I know. You're telling me she's mad at me too? Just give me a couple of beers. Moderate to severe Italian wife. There was mentioned earlier that there's a lot of national media sharing some of the rumors, their favorite rumors that they heard from around the NFL scouting combine. Matthew Berry released his list yesterday. Rich Eisen, who you hear on the Fan Rochester, had a really interesting rumor out of Indianapolis. And when I share it with you, I think you'll kind of agree. It's intriguing. It's intriguing and compelling, and it might actually make Indianapolis worth paying attention to. I'll explain. We'll get Matthew Caller, the Purple Insider, joining us in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Lots to get to as we chug on here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. You can join us at 866-4326.
You're listening. Rochester at home by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
All right, I'm a little bit nervous. Get a critique from the executive producer, your wife. That means, well, something is rotten in Denmark. What did we do now, Gene?
I never get home and like, boy, you did a great job on the show
No
today.
pats on the back.
No, what an interview you had. Great lining up the guests.
No
And
kudos. No attaboys.
Danger, I get a report card whenever I get home on the show. You do not. Your wife does not
I
listen.
can't believe, I really sympathize with you, pal. I'm sorry. I can't imagine the pressure of knowing your wife is hanging on your every word every afternoon while you're doing a radio show.
And then sometimes if we get, as we say, too blue, then I hear about it from my dad. He doesn't like that.
No,
and then,
no.
Luke in Rochester, welcome.
Oops,
Luke.
sorry. No,
Yeah,
no, he doesn't. He doesn't appreciate when
Luke in Rochester.
No, he doesn't appreciate when we talk about Bill Belichick. Sure. Yeah.
Well, along those lines, he's not going to be happy when I present this to you. As you know, Danger, you dubbed my wife the executive producer because she has the input.
Mm-hmm.
Her take on us revisiting our 2024 bold NFL predictions. Quote, you in Danger. AI was blowing smoke up your ass. Your predictions weren't that great. Neither were Danger.
Wow. Wow.
Was that product again for anybody with moderate to severe Italian wife?
Yeah, it's called Couple of Beers.
Couple beers.
Well, she's making the case that I was trying to make yesterday. Screw our wives. We can just hang out with AI all day. I'll just talk to AI, and it's going to tell me everything I want to know. It's going to hold my hand when I need it to. It's going to tell me how great I am, how smart I appear. That's what AI is doing a great job of.
Does that make you actually a better person, though?
In my mind, it does. In my mind, I'm good with it. Don't have to deal with the nagging. I mean, they don't have to deal with, the day-to-day. Moderate to severe Italian wife. Just talk to AI. That's the way to do it. Develop a relationship with your AI.
Here's the example from yesterday, and this is one of mine. Dak Prescott will play his last game with the Cowboys. Where does he play? He's going to play with the Jets. Dak Prescott to the Jets in 2025. That was my prediction. I missed that. AI says I got that right. This one was bold, especially with Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback. Dak Prescott, Gene predicted he'd be gone. He was ahead of the curve. It's a solid prediction, though more of a future projection. What? Solid projection.
That's what it's there for. It's there to pump the tires of Eugene. I'm telling you, if you're not liking what the executive producer is dishing out, just go talk to your AI.
See, I think, what was the movie, WALL-E, where they're just, you're in the future and you're just all a bunch of slops.
Yeah.
We're just going to have whatever telling us, you're great. When we should be going to the gym.
We are getting there, man.
Yeah.
There's a couple movies that I always think of when I think about what the future holds for us and the direction that we're going. The first one is Idiocracy. That was a Mike Judge movie. Did you ever see that?
I did not, no.
Luke Wilson and Terry Crews and Maya Rudolph from SNL, and it's fantastic. It's I don't know if I would say it's dated now. You might watch it now and you might be like, oh God, this is actually very close to reality. And it was, satire. It was made as this is what the future is for our country. We all become idiots because stupid people keep having kids, and the kids of the stupid people keep having kids, and the next thing you know, we're just a nation of stupid people.
Mm-hmm.
That's Idiocracy. And then, of course, WALL-E, where, we ruin the planet altogether and we're forced to be shot off into space by a major corporation, just floating in a zero-gravity environment and being pumped full of fluids and
drinking
food.
milkshakes and watching monitors. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be the future. But it will have AI in our ear telling us how great we are. That's good. That's good for the mood.
Danger, your wife would never say, hey, I was blowing smoke up your ass. I was like, what?
No, she would encourage me to spend more time with AI because that means I'm spending less time with her. Rich Eisen,
healthy to me. Yeah.
Rich Eisen was sharing a rumor that he heard from last week at the Combine here on the Fan Rochester. The quarterback that the Colts could bring in to compete with Anthony Richardson is Daniel Jones. And you know what? I'm actually really intrigued by that. If you had a competition with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, you put Jones in Steichen's offense with competent receivers, a good run game, the best offensive line he's ever played behind. If Jones ends up in Indianapolis, he's 2025 Sam Darnold.
Then Anthony Richardson is totally lost. That's the difference here. The deck was cleared. Let's put it this way. If J.J. McCarthy hadn't gotten hurt, would the Vikings have had the season that they would have had?
I think that, again, when we talk to Matthew Collar here coming up next hour, in about a half an hour, we're going to talk to the Purple Insider. Who's calling the shots? Because if it's the head coach truly calling the shots, who gives us the best chance to win? You won 14 games with Sam Darnold. I don't know that you're doing that with a rookie in J.J. McCarthy. And I agree. I believe that that's true this year as well, that if you want to win games, then J.J. McCarthy will get his chance, but it's not yet.
Well, for the Colts, if they want to win games in that division, it still is a bad division. Can we agree on that? Tennessee, okay, they'll have a new quarterback. Jacksonville's in a rebuild. And I'm just going to say it, like, this is kind of all right, is he going to take this next step forward, or is just C.J. Stroud just another guy in this league? Because, yes, he had a really good rookie season last year.
Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL.
That is a division that's winnable.
Sure is.
So for Indianapolis, hey, you bring in Daniel Jones, but if that happens, dangerous, that means you wasted a number 4 overall pick. You need Anthony Richardson to show you something. If anything, you bring in Daniel Jones to say, hey, here's somebody that's a professional, and here's how you go about your business. And maybe you got to like sit up straight and actually kind of earn this thing. Daniel Jones is such a professional that when he got demoted, he was willing to play the scout team.
I would say that Anthony Richardson wouldn't be a lost cause if he lost a competition to Daniel Jones, because he could just be the next Daniel Jones or the next Sam Darnold. He hasn't played enough in college and in the pros, but maybe he'll get a shot somewhere down the road if he were to lose a quarterback competition to somebody like Daniel Jones this season. I think it's real intriguing. And it'd be interesting to see Danny Dimes in Shane Steichen's offense with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, with an offensive line, with weapons on the outside, a good receiving core. I'd sign up for that. If I'm a Colts fan, I would sign up for that and let it play out in training camp. Make it a true competition. I have a feeling Jones wins that competition. And I think with Richardson, we're always going to remember him tapping out. They're so much closer to the blast zone. They have to see him every day and have a constant reminder of his cowardice. He might just have to wait it out and find a new background, new environment to try and survive and thrive in the NFL. We'll see. Mentioned Matthew Collar, Purple Insider. We'll see what is going on there with the Vikings, with Sam Darnold. Talk about their off season. And how they fell short here in the postseason down the stretch, because they were looking good for most of the 2024 season. He's stopping by the sports bar in a little bit. We've got some NFL headlines to get to.
I also want to get to this talk here. There's some Amherst fans that got into it with online today. Look, this is what happened last night in Buffalo. I'm asking for a change, and I was a little surprised by some of the pushback.
Yeah, we'll discuss that. That's on the way next here, and your calls as well at 866-4326. Join us, 585-866-4FAN.
9BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Max Crosby of the Raiders not going anywhere. Just got a new deal. 3 years, $106.5 million tacked on, $91.5 guaranteed. Max Crosby now the highest non-paid quarterback in NFL history. Meanwhile, Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Steve Tasker on One Bills Live offering his take.
This DK Metcalf thing is really intriguing, though, but we're right in the midst of a James Cook conversation where he wants now and may get, because of the Saquon Barkley deal, may get $15 million a year. That changes things offensively for your budget. Do you have money for another DK Metcalf, another guy like that? I don't know if you do or not.
Sabres lost to the team with the worst record in the National Hockey League, that being San Jose. Buffalo playing at Florida tomorrow night. The Mavericks on the road this weekend, first of two coming up tomorrow night at Laval. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It's a pitch play to Cook, dives, reaches for the end zone, and he's got it! He is in for the touchdown! What an amazing effort by Cook!
Sharkwan Sharkley, are you kidding me?
If you take all running backs in the league this season that had at least 50 touches, it's Ty Johnson, who is the leader in yards per touch in 2024.
Mike Danger.
But I'm saying get ready to divorce yourself from the notion of James Cook being a Bill long-term at that dollar, at that rate, at $15 million per. The Bills, they don't put that value on the running back position the way the Eagles just did for Saquon.
Gene Battaglia.
James Cook is a fine player, and I hope he stays in Buffalo.
James is a beautiful man.
Maybe the Bills just kind of do the, all right, we're not going to come to an agreement. We're going to let you test the market, but you know what? You got to ball out.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
We'll go to the Twin Cities and check in with our buddy with some 585 roots. That's Matthew Caller, the Purple Insider, stopping by the sports bar in about 20 minutes. We have plenty of time for your calls as well. 866-4FAN if you want to join us, 585-866-4326. Thanks for checking out the stream. We're live on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you're there. Don't forget to follow us in the free-to-download Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester as well.
Sometimes I'll put things on social media not to get likes. You don't. I'd rather you don't agree with me. I just didn't expect that this is the way we go.
Yeah.
So this was the take here, Danger. Okay. It's time. This is after last night's disaster, right? It's time. The Sabres need to thank Lindy and let him go enjoy his life. Give Seth Appert an audition for the rest of this season. Okay, let's stop there. Mike Danger, your thoughts on that take?
Reasonable.
Yeah,
reasonable. I get that Lindy Ruff provided a bit of enthusiasm and nostalgia, and he's one hell of a hockey coach. But it ain't working.
They're not listening to him. This team loses their minds. They have an effort problem. Now they have a goaltending problem. We can talk about that too. But you can't be getting blown out by the freaking San Jose Sharks on a Tuesday night.
Such a weird vibe last night, too.
Terrible vibe.
I mean, I get it. Your owner has the Bills and the Sabres. And ultimately, this is still a business. But, man, it felt like an infomercial for the new stadium last night while I was watching. It felt like, okay, wow, I got to be a part of this. Got to get those PSLs sold for Bills night here at KeyBank.
See, I took it a different way. I thought, all right, we need to sell tickets on a Tuesday night, and people love. Nobody's going to come out for San Jose, but maybe with the promise that there will be a Buffalo Bill, and it was only the guys that were under contract, the guys in town. Head coach Sean McDermott was there, driving the Zamboni. Good for him. And you had Steve Tasker, One Bills Live co-host.
I feel bad for Tasker, man. They did him dirty on the broadcast. I mean, they show him in the stands just mowing down a hot dog. I mean, like, nobody likes to be caught stuffing their face with food. And Tasker was just going hard on a concession dog. Just not a great look.
The guy is a pro eater.
Oh,
though.
for sure.
Oh my gosh, you and I have spent some time around him at camp. Though.
Yeah, for sure.
He could put down anything. Okay, there's Slick Rick there. Okay, great, Slick Rick. That's where we're at. We're inviting Slick Rick. Come on out.
Slick Rick, like the rapper?
No, the guy that Josh Allen gave a shout out to, the mailman.
Oh.
He was banging the drum last night.
Oh, so like Bills influencers?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. So Slick Rick was there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember they did the nice thing, gave him a car, whatever. So Slick Rick there. Anyways, the point being that time is up. Like, if this franchise wants to have any hope, let's move on with our lives. It was a mistake. Yes, you'll get the national media, hockey media waving their fingers saying, you cannot move on from Lindy Ruff.
The thing that I don't know if you saw this yet or not, but the big rumor today, and I think this will cure everything, they're going to extend Jordan Greenway. He'll get a couple extra years of $4 million per. I mean, problem solved. Gino, everything's fine. What are you talking about?
Let's not pay attention to the inactivity here at the trade deadline and how this team is bottoming out. Look, I thought maybe I would get some pushback on, hey, he's Lindy, he's a legend, you don't do him this way. No, it was the latter part of give Seth Appert an audition.
No.
Sean writing in, Appert is a huge problem. His power play is god-awful like it was in Rochester last year. Jason writing in, Leone has showed us what a terrible coach Seth Appert was. Amherst have improved in virtually every aspect despite having a younger and arguably less talented lineup.
Wow.
Now, Tom responding that I'm not sure terrible is the right word. The Amherst had a lot of success under his watch. Appert is 5th all-time in wins in Amherst history. Lots of success in the playoffs. He raised the standard of the franchise. Another person writing, well, you can't ignore that they have the best goaltender in the AHL this season. That's true, and I would also say that kind of the talent has changed around for Mike Leone, but when Seth Appert showed up, I think we've all kind of forgot how he kind of taken over for Chris Taylor did. I thought he did a great job here. And you want to fault him for not getting past the Hershey Bears?
When you look at the timeline of it all, they move on from Tails, and I remember being pissed. I'm like, Taylor had this team playing like we had never seen them play in a long, long time, and we love Taylor. And Taylor, kind of unceremoniously gets, thrown out with the Bottrell regime, and you start fresh, and who's this Seth Appert guy? Oh, my God, look at his resume. And look, oh, no, nothing really here. But over the course of his seasons here, and we get the chance to talk to him on a weekly basis, I mean, he won me over. I think he's impressive. He certainly presents himself in a very good way. You hear the frustration, whether it's Don Granato or Lindy Ruff, on a night-by-night basis. I never got a frustrated Seth Appert. Even when the team was down, it was more, we weren't good, and left it at that. You can't deny that the power play, his responsibility with this team, is not performing up to the level it needs to.
Yeah, that is where it's at. And for Buffalo, look, if you're getting rid of Lindy, it pains me to say Seth.
Getting rid of Seth, you're getting rid of everybody. I mean, you need a whole regime change again. But, I mean, what you put out there, I think, is reasonable. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to change anything.
Sabre power play, 27th in the league, 16.8%.
Yeah.
Now, you go back to 2 years, it was electrifying. So what happened here? Kind of the same personnel. I know Olofsson's not there for that shot, but
Tage Thompson, I think, is a key. I mean, 2 years ago, Tage Thompson on the power play was lethal, and I think it's the NHL, and teams will figure you out. And some guys can elevate above that, them figuring you out. But Thompson scoring goals, he's got his spot. He knows exactly where that spot. He scored another one last night. He's like, okay, that's a spot. Boom, and on the power play, that he was lethal. It was almost like, whoa, we got to pay attention to 72. That guy's got a shot and he's got a spot, and if you get him on the power play, he's going to score.
Well, I'm going to push back. I appreciate everybody writing in, but to say Seth Appert was a terrible coach for the Rochester Americans, no, I'm sorry. What I would accept is if you want to go the route of the Peter principle, meaning, hey, he did a lot in college, great developmental coach. Maybe this was too much here. Maybe he and Lindy were overmatched this season. Because we believe there's talent on this team. It's just not showing up in terms of wins.
Maybe there's talent, but there's no heart.
Well,
and there's not a lot of brain either. I feel like there's a lot of just stupid penalties, dumb mistakes, lack of focus.
And now you have a goaltender that, Oh, come on. UPL, you can't let that in. Any other year, you would be talking about the goalie swap, which I think they still could do technically. Send UPL down. Don't do it. Okay, we need Devin Levi here. Don't poison Devin Levi. The more I'm thinking, Devin Levi, that should be the goal. Just get him as much action in Rochester, let him win a championship here, and let him bring some of that juju up to Buffalo next season.
Right. Yeah, reasonable take, but unlikely in my opinion. And the only thing that I think would actually satiate Sabre fans at this point is, again, another cleaning of house, and the cycle begins all over again, which doesn't really inspire much hope given how many times we've gone through this exercise. It's kind of sad. It's definitely embarrassing.
Embarrassing!
And losing 6-2 to the Sharks, not great.
It's only a 2-year deal for Ruff in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of money Mr. Pagula has to eat,
How
it
much
really
is
is
he eating
not a
from?
lot.
He's eating money still from Granado too, is he not? I mean, Granado got another job, but not a head coaching job. So is there a prorated thing there, or these are things we don't know?
These are things we don't know, but that's a good point that no owner wants to be paying 3 head coaches simultaneously.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. We're going to have Matthew Collar on with us here in less than 10 minutes. Just a couple of quick NFL headlines from today. If you're just joining us here, welcome into the Sports Bar. The Raiders are paying their Pro Bowl defensive end Max Crosby, in fact, making him now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. It's a 3-year, $106.5 million extension that includes $91.5 million guaranteed. If you're a Bills fan hoping that he would be available for a trade, cross him off the list.
Yeah, and also on top of that, this is what it would cost for Myles Garrett. I know we want to just think that that's not a factor. Trust me, it is. Anybody that wants to trade for Myles Garrett, we can talk about the compensation, what that trade would look like. You must give him a new deal, or you're the New York Jets basically trading for Reddick. Don't put your head in the sand that if you trade for Myles Garrett, new deal has to come along with it. And are the Buffalo Bills ready, theoretically, because you're going to have to pay Josh Allen too, to make Josh Allen the highest paid quarterback in the league and make somebody else the highest paid non-quarterback in the league? Danger, I don't see it. I think that's the big stumbling point here. I know we say the cap isn't real, but that cash really is real. The signing bonus really is real. So I think your best hope here maybe at this point is the draft. And maybe Cleveland, at some point this summer decides to move off of Myles Garrett.
The other bit of news that has many Bills fans in a tizzy, DK Metcalf has asked to be traded, and the Seahawks are going to explore trading their wide receiver. They also released Tyler Lockett today as well. Big Jackson Smith and Jigba season coming up for fantasy, if you believe that they can throw the football, if you believe Geno Smith can get him the ball. Back to DK Metcalf. He's entering the last year of his second contract and a base salary of $18 million. And much like we were just discussing with Garrett, with DK Metcalf, first comes the compensation in terms of what are you going to trade with Seattle to get him, and then what are you going to pay him on a new extension?
Not giving up pick 30. But what about the logic that, hey, that second pick you got in the second round this year, that's actually courtesy of Steph Diggs? Okay, we traded Steph Diggs basically for DK Metcalf. Who would say no to that?
I would take that. Do you want to take a stab at what his Spot Track calculated market value is per year? His average annual salary per year.
I'm terrible at that stuff. I really am. Like, I kind of glaze over. It's a lot of money, I'm sure.
They evaluate him at $26.1 million per year. So if you're DK Metcalf making 18 this year, yeah, you're going to need a new extension, and that new extension is going to pay you well north of $20 million per.
Can you play this? We played this in the sports update. This was Tasker today on One Bills Live. He's bringing up a point. I would push back on this a little bit, but it is a factor, though, if you're going to bring in, somebody from the outside and you're going to pay them.
And this DK Metcalf thing is really intriguing, though, but we're right in the midst of a James Cook conversation where he wants now and may get, because of the Saquon Barkley deal, may get $15 million a year. That changes things offensively for your budget. Do you have money for another DK Metcalf, another guy like that? I don't know if you do or not.
Okay. I would say respectfully, Steve Tasker, I don't think that you're giving $15 million to James Cook. Maybe some other team would. I would think that Buffalo would not. But what if the Bills and James Cook do come to an agreement? Like, that would be more money going to the offense, and I think that is a factor where you want to spend your dollars, certainly.
I think where you want to spend your dollars in free agency before the draft is probably more suited for the offense, and then defensively,
go young
in the draft and get your guys. Yeah, I like that. I disagree with Tasker slightly. I'm with you, Gino. I don't know that just because Saquon got paid that James Cook is all of a sudden going to get $15 million.
I think that's the logic. His agent's probably telling him, see, we were right in asking for that.
Yeah, sure. The market for running back isn't what it was 5 years ago, but the Bills, to our knowledge, haven't changed their philosophy and how they value that position. James Cook's a nice player. Is he a nice player worth $15 million when you have Ray Davis who can do the same thing for his rookie deal? I don't know. We'll see. Let's get to Matthew Caller because Minnesota is intriguing. The Vikings did not franchise tag Sam Darnold. In fact, this year was weird. Only 2 franchise tags. T. Higgins and the lineman in Kansas City.
Oh, very correct.
So no franchise tag for Sam Darnold. What does that mean for Sam Darnold here as he hits the open market? Is he a part of the plan? And who's really calling the shots there with the Minnesota Vikings? Matthew Caller. Coming back to the 585. We'll have him on with us next here on the Fan Rochester.
Sports Update.
If you're a Bills fan hoping for Max Crosby, that's not going to be happening. Crosby gets a 3-year, $106.5 million extension, $91.5 million guaranteed. Crosby now the highest non-quarterback paid in NFL history. Steve Tasker on Crosby getting paid.
I think a lot of people like Max Crosby because you just get the feeling when you watch him play the guy doesn't have an off switch.
No.
I thought that would be a guy the Bills might have a shot at early on in the free because with the new head coach, Pete Carroll, coming in, maybe they'd wipe the decks clean, start with, save the money, but obviously not. And I think they're smart, too, to do it.
Meanwhile, Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Sabres, a new low point. They lost to San Jose, the team with the worst record in the league. Buffalo playing tomorrow night at Florida. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the sports bar, it's Danger and Battaglia. We go to the land of 10,000 lakes, or this week, the land of 10,000 locks. Matthew, we're going to talk about the Vikings, but, this Minnesota boy knows what's going on there at the X this weekend. It's the Minnesota State High School hockey tournament. I'm trying to paint a picture for Gino so he kind of feels how that city and how that state shifts and becomes the state of hockey this week. Are you feeling any of that? I know how immersed you are in the NFL and in the Minnesota Vikings, but being there in Minneapolis, you have to feel it, yeah?
Oh, my gosh, yeah. It's one of the biggest weeks of the year. For all Minnesotans, they come across the state, they fill the arena, and fun factoid, my wife, a few years ago, became the first person ever, the first woman ever to broadcast the hockey tournament, which was a huge deal here. The newspaper wrote about it and everything. She's actually currently on TV right now on Peacock doing the Big Ten tournament for the women's side. So that was a nice boost for her career, so it means a lot to us. And it's one of the coolest things that this state does. The only way I could describe it is it's like state championship football in Florida or Texas. It's like that for hockey here.
That's awesome. And give Sloan our best there. Fisher grad, Sloan Martin there. Got to throw that in there. Matthew Collar, Purple Insider, 9:50 a.m. Graduate from way back when. Matthew, thanks for your time today, bud. Figured with the Sam Darnold talk, it's a good time to have you on. Kind of fill us in here because are they trying to do right by Darnold, saying, hey, go out there and test your market. If you want to come back, we've got a spot for you. Or is it just they're not willing to make the investment at that position? They really want to clear the deck there for J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this thing because I thought there was a good chance that they might be able to tag and trade him, but I guess there's a reason why you don't see too many tags and trades in the NFL. The last one for a quarterback was Matt Castle in 2009 because, well, most people don't have 14-win quarterbacks that they want to move on from. That's strange already.
Right.
But also, other teams would have to take on $41 million of unmovable money for next year in order to do it. So if you have, a decent amount of cap space, then you get Darnold. If you're another team, then you have no cap space. And then also you're giving up a draft pick for a guy that is probably going to hit free agency anyway. So I can see why teams would not do that. I can see why the Vikings wouldn't do it because they have a lot of free agents of their own that they're trying to re-sign. Aaron Jones, Cam Bynum, Byron Murphy Jr., who could all be fairly expensive players. And they want to go into free agency and load up their defense more. They want to fix their offensive line. So there's a lot of spending that they want to do, and that would be pretty limited if they franchise tag Sam Darnold. But my expectation was coming out of the combine after listening to Kevin O'Connell talk that we were going to hear that, okay, Sam Darnold wasn't tagged. He's going to hit free agency. And instead, all the NFL insiderers, they all are saying, well, the Vikings and Darnold want to work something out. So then we're kind of scratching heads a little bit here. Does that mean that they really do? Or is this in the same vein as Kirk Cousins last year where all the insider people were saying, oh, well, the Vikings want Cousins back. But they really didn't. I mean, they wanted somebody else to come in and pay him $45 million like the Falcons did and then go draft J.J. McCarthy. So with Darnold, it's hard to read the room because McCarthy has not played. He was injured all last year. He didn't throw a heck of a lot of passes at Michigan, where he mostly handed the ball off. So they really only have a couple of weeks of practice at training camp last year, and then one preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders backups to work with. And I could imagine where if you're the head coach of a 14-win team and you won Coach of the Year, the last thing you want to do is switch quarterbacks and then have the kid not be ready and win 7 games, and suddenly people aren't talking about you as a genius. So I could see why the head coach would want to do this. I could see why the front office would want to be the total opposite of, hey, don't pay a quarterback who might be the 10th to 12th best guy in the league or something like that. And who's going to win out is going to be interesting to see. The other thing, too, is if you're Sam Darnold, I mean, you sure want to play with Justin Jefferson more than you want to go play for the Titans, right? I think that there is reason for him to want to return, even if he's looking over his shoulder, because he knows what a good situation this was for him last year and the fact that they could win and seriously compete. So there's a lot of different push and pull in all sorts of directions here, and I'm truly not sure how this is going to end up playing out.
Yeah, Matthew, I felt like a lone voice in the wilderness at the beginning of last season saying Darnold's going to have a good season because this is the best offensive line that he's played behind. This is the most weapons he's had in his entire career, and he's got an offensive minded head coach who knows how to scheme guys open. He can succeed. He can thrive. He got those 14 wins. McCarthy rehabbing from the knee. And now with all of this chatter in the offseason, which I don't even understand, like, he won you 14 games, and yes, you could say against Detroit and the Rams, he looked like old Sam Darnold again. But 14 wins is not easy in the NFL, and I certainly don't believe that a guy that will essentially be playing his rookie season in J.J. McCarthy can get that kind of output in 2025. Who's calling the shots in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that they have usually worked and operated is they set prices on players and then they stick to them. And that even goes for somebody as important as the quarterback position. It's what they did with Kirk Cousins. I can name you 8-9 other players that they have either signed or let go because they weren't going to go too high on their price, or somebody came down and met their price. And I think they look at it the same way. Like, there's a certain threshold where if you sign Sam Darnold, then you are limited in what you can do in the salary cap. I mean, even the Kansas City Chiefs have to move on from people because of their expensive quarterback contract. We know how this works, that things do get more tricky when you have to work around it. So then the question becomes, could they work on a 3-year deal that has a low cap hit in the first year, and then if they feel good about J.J. McCarthy, then trade Sam Darnold? But there's always the risk of getting caught holding the bag like Atlanta with Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson in Denver, where they just had to cut those guys, and it's going to really hurt their salary cap. So it's a delicate dance. And, you know, I generally agree with you that when you have a quarterback play that well, I couldn't think of a single example historically where a team won this many games and the quarterback threw 35 touchdowns and was really the reason. I mean, they lost their left tackle. Their tight end did not come back from his injury the way that they wanted to. The offensive line fell apart toward the end of the season, which is why they lost the way they did in the playoffs. And Darnold made plays and drove their success. They didn't really run the ball all that well. And yet, at the end of the day, all the fans here want nothing to do with bringing Sam Darnold back. They want to get to the next guy, as has always been the case in the NFL, that the next man up is always the most popular quarterback. But I do think if you're Kevin O'Connell, it's really hard to walk away from a guy that played football at that high of a level. I mean, you look at whether it's his quarterback rating or his PFF grade or whatever you want to look at, he was a top 10 quarterback last year for a team that had a chance to win the number 1 seed. And hey, who knows how it goes differently in the playoffs if they got that 1 seed, right? So it's a dicey situation, because if Darnold gets another offer that's $45-50 million a year from somebody else, well, the Vikings can't do that. But if the league says, we're not willing to take that risk on a guy who's been good for 1 year and it was with Justin Jefferson, then maybe there is a price that actually does make sense for him to return.
Rochester native, and now with the Purple Insider, Matthew Collar, our guest here in the Sports Bar. So, Matthew, there is kind of one element to this. One person could hit the override button. One person does have the executive decision, if you will, that being the owner. We've seen owners like the guy in Carolina handpicking a quarterback. Give us some insight to Ziggy Wilf. Is he the guy who ultimately could sway this one way or another?
Yeah, so I've always thought that just in general, what it comes down to in the NFL is that players number 2 through 53 are the GM, the coach, and player number 1, the quarterback, belongs to the owner most of the time. And, they're listening to their general managers and coaches, but at the end of the day, that's the one position where the owner, I think, feels really confident in being involved in that type of decision. But in general, this ownership has not really operated that way. This isn't a Woody Johnson. It's not a Daniel Snyder. This is Ziggy and Mark Wilf, who I think understand what they don't know. And it's shocking to say that about owners, right, in the NFL, but I think it's true. And what the process has been described to me as in kind of like everybody makes their case and then they pick the direction that they want to go. So Kevin O'Connell, let's say he wants Darnold back. He's going to kind of present why. And if their general manager, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, wants the cap space, he's going to present why. And then the ownership is going to make a decision on that, and they'll go with it, which I think is a pretty good way of going about things. And it's one of the reasons the Vikings are a typical, pretty solid franchise, if not one of the best franchises in the league, if you look at the NFLPA survey and things like that. Because they do operate in a way where they listen to their football people. But the arguments on both sides are really good. So it's like if you argue that Darnold played really well last year and he's a few pieces away in free agency from really competing for the Super Bowl, I don't think you're crazy. I mean, he had a terrible playoff game, but I can name you 20 quarterbacks whose first playoff game was terrible in the NFL and then went on to win something. I tweeted yesterday that Eli Manning's first playoff game, he lost 23-0 and threw 3 picks, and he's known as like the most clutch player. So, I think there's that argument. On the other side, you might have a ceiling with Sam Darnold. There could be a case, are you ever going to get a better version of Sam Darnold than the one you just got? Probably not, and it still wasn't enough. So you drafted J.J. McCarthy for a reason, and it's time to go. And I think both of those are pretty compelling.
Well, I don't cover the draft as much as other people and other certainly experts that you have on your pod, Matt, but I would think if J.J. McCarthy came out in this year's draft, tell me if I'm right or wrong, he would be the top quarterback. With that being said, is anybody picking up the phone right now and saying, hey, what would it take?
McCarthy would be the number 1 overall pick without question, I think, from the Tennessee Titans if he was coming out in this draft. People I've talked to have said that the difference between the class from last year with all those quarterbacks and this year is significant. Cam Ward might have been QB 6, maybe 7 behind Bo Nix. Like, that's just where we're at. I don't see that as a scenario. I mean, the Vikings surprise me all the time. So, but I think they would be insane to trade him away. Even if the Titans came and said, we will give you the number 1 overall pick and you could take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, as enticing as that sounds, because you have a quarterback who's been so successful. If you trade J.J. McCarthy away and then Sam Darnold regresses and he does go back to the old Sam, which everybody kept saying after 2 bad games, I mean, you are really in trouble there, right? So I don't know. I think that it's much better to have 2 quarterbacks that you can go in the future. And it's something really important to remember about J.J. McCarthy is that he just turned in January 22 years old. Bo Nix made the playoffs at 25? How old is Michael Penix? I mean, I think they are taking a very long-term approach. And with Kevin O'Connell winning Coach of the Year, signing an extension through 2029, I mean, this team does not have to panic. They don't have to think short-term. They can go the route of an Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love type of situation if they bring back Darnold and let this play out and let McCarthy be fully ready. And if they do that, I know fans here are not happy about the idea of Sam Darnold coming back, but I just can't find that to be a bad situation. If you have a young quarterback who's going to get full development, I mean, how often does that ever happen in the NFL?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because that's exactly where I was going to go. Where is the harm in bringing Darnold back for at least another season while McCarthy marinades and learns underneath him? And Darnold, I think winning 14 games, again, not an easy thing to do in the NFL, knowing this system, working within this system. It's a lot that J.J. McCarthy can kind of learn from, just like we see Green Bay do now for generations with their quarterbacks.
What would you know about rushing quarterbacks and ruining them, right? And
I would know nothing.
Right.
I would know nothing. I view this situation with great envy, Matthew.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's exactly it, right? Is the situation. Here's another thing to factor, too, for why they might bring him back. I still lean toward that they're going to go to McCarthy and somebody's going to give Darnold an offer that nobody saw coming and he's going to leave. I still think that happens, but and the argument on Darnold's side and having McCarthy develop, if you look at the Vikings schedule next year, I know it's a hard thing to do, lots of stuff changes, but it includes Philadelphia, Washington, Micah Parsons, the Steelers, the Ravens. It is hellacious. Oh, by the way, the NFC North, probably the best division in football. If the Bears hired a competent coach, watch out. I mean, you could be talking about a Viking season with J.J. McCarthy that does not go in the way of them competing for a Super Bowl just based on who they have to play, because those are all consistent franchises that you could project as being really difficult opponents. And I know that the team probably goes, we'll just win the football games, we're tough, but you have to also think about, like, your quarterback hasn't played before ever, and now you're going to have him go against T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons, the Eagles D-line. That's a lot. It's just a lot. It's just a lot to ask. So I think that if you're Kevin O'Connell, that's a good consideration. The other thing is, too, quarterbacks get hurt all the time. And if the Vikings brought back Darnold and he got banged up, your backup quarterback is the 10th overall pick who, you know, you've been working with for 2 years now. So I think that it's one of those things where the fans so badly want the rookie, they want the next thing, that they kind of are struggling to see the logic in it, but there is a lot of logic in a short-term deal for Darnold.
Well, how much pressure then is on McCarthy to do this right away, knowing, Matthew, that if you have a rookie quarterback, well, this isn't a rookie quarterback, but he's on a rookie deal. If you have him on that rookie deal, you can go fortify other positions. This window could be really open nicely, if not this year, but certainly next year for the Vikings.
Yeah, this is the hard part because no one would say, hey, JJ, if you don't win 14 games, you're a bust or anything like that. But at the same time, you look around the roster and you go, all right, well, who's the best players on this team? Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw, Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman. What do these guys have in common? They're not young. They're not old, but they're not young. It's not like, oh, well, we've got a young team and we can build over a number of years. These guys are all in their primes, and they just went to Detroit last year with a chance to get the number 1 seed in the division or in the entire conference, and that's kind of the expectation that all the star players have. Now, one thing I will say, even though that would be really hard, I think, for McCarthy to take over a situation like that and then be the 22-year-old guy. They got rid of the quarterback that everybody liked in Sam Darnold, which is a factor, too. They loved Sam Darnold. And now it's like it's your show, is that McCarthy's impression that he made last year and in the building this year was extremely good. All the stuff that they said about him, he's a leader, his work ethic's out of this world, all the stuff, one of the reasons he was a top pick, it's all shown. And I think that everybody knows that, which is important. But, yeah, where to set that bar for expectations is pretty tough to figure out. The other thing is, too, that and I know, Mahomes is Mahomes, but, him and Jordan Love, other quarterbacks who have not played and then gotten their chance, oftentimes they have won. They haven't needed, a couple of years. So if he did sit behind the scenes and develop in practice for 2025, then he could enter with those type of expectations, which is why I've kind of liked the idea of Sam Darnold returning, which gets me booed off stage and tomatoes thrown at me every time I bring it up. But I think that it does make sense from the perspective of not asking this guy to go lead this veteran team who just won 14 games last year.
All right, so let's play it out because you mentioned Tennessee at the top of the draft, the team that would obviously maybe be making an offer for Sam Darnold. What teams do you see as teams making sense for making an offer for Darnold here when the league year gets underway?
I think it starts with the Titans. Everything that I've heard is that they don't like the idea of putting all their eggs in the Cam Ward basket, which I totally agree with. I think in a rational world, Cam Ward would be like a second-round draft pick. It's just the desperation is out of this world. But if Tennessee, can make their case to Sam Darnold, they have bad ownership. They change leadership all the time. That'd be a tough sell, but they could offer a lot of money. I think the Raiders are a pretty attractive option because you have at least, even though he's old as hell, a proven coach, an offensive coordinator who's been in the league, and actually Chip Kelly worked with Kevin O'Connell in San Francisco years ago. And I think the best option for him would probably be the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have been so poor at quarterback and still make the playoffs every year. Can you just get them the 12th best quarterback in the league to go with their defense and their running game and Mike Tomlin as a coach and all that? Because Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges and Bubby Brister and Neil O'Donnell, they're just not getting it done. So I think that there will be a couple teams. I guess my question is, when he goes out, what is he getting for offers? It's not that there won't be teams. It's how much money are they willing to pay? Because if the Steelers say, we'll give you $30 million a year over 3 years, I mean, the Vikings should just do that because you can make the first year's cap hit pretty low, and then you just come back to Minnesota. But what I don't know is how much Darnold wants to not be having somebody behind him or looking over his shoulder. It didn't bother him in the slightest last year. It really didn't. Even in training camp, OTAs, all that stuff, he was never concerned with it. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. Clearly, it bothered Kirk Cousins a lot when he went to Atlanta and they drafted Penix. So I don't know what he's looking for, but I would be looking at Pittsburgh.
What do you think the number is? 45? Do you think he gets up to 50?
I am now thinking, based on just what some people have said and the feeling, it's more of a vibe, that we're not talking that much money. And you look at the precedent, Geno Smith signed, I think, for 3 years, 75 after he had his breakout season. And his breakout season was almost identical to Sam's when you look at touchdowns, quarterback rating, what happened in the playoffs. So he didn't get that much. And then even Baker Mayfield was 3 years, 100. If we adjust that for the inflation of the cap, maybe 3 years, like 110 or something like that. I don't think it's going to be crazy. And even though it sounds weird to say, a team would trust Kirk Cousins way more, even though he had one playoff win in all those years, he had so much bigger of a sample size that they thought that they could project it out. When somebody's only done it for 1 year, I mean, there's, 20 quarterbacks in NFL history, including Case Keenum, who have had one great year and then never really done it again.
Matthew Collar, our guest here in the Sports Bar. So, Matthew, pivoting here a little bit to the draft, and the Bills picking at 30. Now, if I had to say what are the top three needs of the Buffalo Bills, number one, far and away, defensive line, corner, and then I would say maybe wide receiver. Minnesota, a few slots ahead at 24. What are the top three needs for the Vikings, would you say?
There's really a big four, and it's probably all equal. So I'll just it's not the question, but I'll give you four instead of three, which is running back, cornerback, defensive tackle, and guard. And they're probably all equal in those needs. The Vikings need to not have to blitz all the time to create pressure, and this defensive tackle draft is supposed to be ridiculous. The running back draft, I mean, we've seen, I think running backs are coming back, which is cool for me because I grew up in the 90s with Thurman Thomas. And so running backs mattering and people caring about them is like, oh, we're back. But there's a heck of a lot of good talent there. The Vikings have one cornerback with any experience under contract, so that would be good to have some of those. And in the offensive line, when you look at the free agency group for guards, it's not that good, and people are going to pay them too much money, and there's some good ones that should be at the back end of the first round. So they have kind of the positions that are actually going to be quite strong in the draft. The problem is they have 4 draft picks. 4. So they're going to have to find a way to get more than 4. So if your people can call my people, then my mock drafts will be a lot more fun. Maybe if the Bills want to trade up and give a couple more picks, because right now doing a mock draft with one in the first, one in the back end of the third, and 2/5. It's just not that exciting, guys.
Matthew, let's talk about this a little bit here because you brought up running backs. We know that this is a historically deep class from what we hear in the NFL draft coming up here at the end of April. We also know that the Bills have a running back who's looking to make $15 million, and his case is starting to be made for him based on what the market did yesterday with Saquon getting his deal. Do you think James Cook is a $15 million a year back? And do you think the Bills, change their way in terms of how they evaluate? Is James Cook somebody that you could see Brandon Beane moving off of and making it a part of a deal somewhere?
The one thing that is really inspiring, and I talked to some people about this in Indianapolis, to pay people like James Cook and not try to be cheap, is that the salary cap is now going to continue to go up like crazy for the foreseeable future. I mean, Netflix is not buying fewer games. Amazon is not buying fewer games. Like, people aren't showing up less at games or buying fewer jerseys. Like, it's pretty projectable going forward that the NFL will keep earning a bleep ton of money and the cap's going to go up. So if you sign James Cook to a 4-year deal now worth $15 a year, 2 years from now, even by next year, that deal's going to look pretty good. So, I mean, it's always a little bit worrisome when you're signing running backs. They get banged up, but I don't think he has a terrible history of getting injured in the past. He looked really, really effective to me last year. I thought at times he was the centerpiece of the offense. So, but, when you have an expensive quarterback, that is always going to be something that you have to balance. Do you really want to pay certain positions? But I think that he probably is worth it, and it's something when and I always think this for any team that's in a Super Bowl window, which the Bills are until Josh Allen retires, that you should do everything and anything you can to keep however much talent you have, because we always talk about what's the model to win, what's the model in the NFL. Well, let's go through Philadelphia's roster. Let's see. They had every single position was good. And it's like, well, that's the model, folks. Always and forever is to have the strongest roster in the league. So you don't want to have too much of your talent walking out the door when you can compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, one of those picks, Matthew, that the Vikings without pick 56 actually now belongs to Buffalo. How ironic. The Steph Diggs trade. I don't know how Minnesota gave your pick to Houston, but Buffalo now the owners of that second-round pick that the Vikings once owned. Matthew, last one here for you, and it's a little off the board. I know you don't cover the Buffalo Sabres anymore, but when you left Buffalo all those years ago, could you have imagined that not only would we be still going through this, but you could say we're in a worse spot here in the year 2025?
It's really funny because I used to get all the time when I was on the radio in Buffalo, people would say, well, if you're so smart criticizing the team, why aren't you the general manager? And I thought, I couldn't have done worse than this, right? Like I started, here's the crazy thing. Because of Gene Battaglia, I got the job in Buffalo in, I believe, 2010, maybe November 2010. It wasn't long after that I got on the air for the first time doing a preview for a playoff game against the Philadelphia Flyers. They have not made the playoffs since. How old was I? Was I like 24? I mean, and now I'm 38. How long? This is insane. You would think that you would accidentally have a goalie get hot and just slip into the playoffs, or that any of these 1,000 draft picks would just click. Oh, wait, they did. I was in Florida playing golf with a buddy a couple weekends ago. We went to see the Panthers. I noticed this Sam Reinhart guy is pretty good. I noticed in that Four Nations thing that Jack Eichel guy is pretty good. It just is. I don't know. But here's the only thing that I could say. I'm here in Minnesota. The Timberwolves had a very similar run of being an absolute abomination for about 15 years. They drafted Anthony Edwards. It turned around. Last year they're in the Western Conference Finals. It can happen quick, but the incompetence of that thing is just mind-blowing. And the bad luck. You also have to throw the bad luck in there as well, because drafting that high that many times you would think would eventually accidentally work.
No, we learned what the root of this is. This is the call or curse. They haven't won since you did the pregame for the Flyers series in the postseason, and whatever you've done to this team, you witch, lift your curse so we can get back to the postseason. And if it doesn't happen this year, let's make it happen next year, pronto.
I was there for the Minneapolis Miracle, but I guess the next week they did get killed in the NFC Championship game. Maybe I do have some bad luck here. Well, I wish them the best, but just like, come on. I thought maybe Lindy Ruff will just get them into the playoffs, but none of the Lindy Ruff touches worked either. So it's a shame.
Matthew, tell everybody about the Purple Insider, because you don't necessarily need to be a Viking fan, but that would certainly be an awesome place if you want to subscribe. But certainly you got a lot of insider info. Tell everyone about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if folks want to check out the newsletter, purpleinsider.football is a good place to do it. I changed it to .football because I thought it was awesome. And where I've really been putting a lot of effort in recently is the YouTube page. So just, search Purple Insider and you get all the stuff that I'm posting. I mean, almost every day now with the off season going. So,
lots of great
it's
guests.
rolling along.
Yeah, lots of great guests. You're doing a great job, man. We're proud of you. Love seeing the work that you're putting out there, and we really appreciate you giving us some of this time this afternoon, Matthew. Be well.
I appreciate that, guys. Take care.
You got it. There's Matthew Collar, the Purple Insider. Check his work out, covering the Minnesota Vikings, talking NFL, talking Sam Darnold.
Darnold's not going back. Once they didn't tag him, like some team, he's right. These quarterbacks, if you're doing an honest evaluation, you're probably paying, if you're Tennessee, Sam Darnold more than Minnesota would.
Yeah,
Vegas might pay him a lot.
What would the level of comfort be for if you're Sam Darnold to say, yeah, I know that I can make less or I could make more going somewhere else, but I know Minnesota. Is it $3 million a year? Is it $5 million a year? What's that level of discomfort that you're willing to walk away from because of the devil you know?
Tennessee then could comfortably take a Carter. They could trade down a few slots if somebody really was high on Cam Ward, say the Giants, for instance.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out here. And we should have some sort of something here by league year starts. Is it a week from Friday? When does the league year start?
Well,
officially?
it's Wednesday.
Wednesday, officially. So a week from today.
However, legal tampering,
We'll have that.
Which it's crazy. We're in illegal tampering right now. Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Monday will be interesting, of course, and as the league year gets underway, the deluge of just moves and transactions, and Sam Darnold likely to be a part of that. We'll see if it's in Minnesota or somewhere else. Really appreciate Matthew Collar, the Purple Insider, stopping by and sharing some of his insight here on the Sports Bar.
Got one Bills note from Adam Schefter. Do you want this now or do you want me to hold it?
Yeah, hang on to it. Let's get to happy hour next in the Sports Bar. We got a few Bills notes to get to. That one from Schefter, your sports update coming up, and your calls. Join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
If you're a Buffalo Bills fan hoping that Max Crosby would land here, that's not going to be happening. Crosby gets a 3-year, $106.5 million extension, $91.5 of that guaranteed. Crosby now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Meanwhile, Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Steve Tasker on this possibility.
And this DK Metcalf thing is really intriguing, though, but we're right in the midst of a James Cook conversation where he wants now and may get, because of the Saquon Barkley deal, may get $15 million a year. That changes things offensively for your budget. Do you have money for another DK Metcalf, another guy like that? I don't know if you do or not.
A new low point for the Buffalo Sabres. They lost to the team with the worst record in the league in San Jose. Buffalo playing at Florida tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It's a pitch play to Cook, dives, reaches for the end zone, and he's got it! He is in for the touchdown! What an amazing effort by Cook!
Sharkwan Sharkley, are you kidding me?
If you take all running backs in the league this season that had at least 50 touches, it's Ty Johnson, who is the leader in yards per touch in 2024.
Mike Danger.
But I'm saying get ready to divorce yourself from the notion of James Cook being a Bill long-term at that dollar, at that rate, at $15 million per. The Bills, they don't put that value on the running back position the way the Eagles just did for Saquon.
Gene Battaglia.
James Cook is a fine player, and I hope he stays in Buffalo.
James is a beautiful man.
Maybe the Bills just kind of do the, all right, we're not going to come to an agreement. We're going to let you test the market, but you know what? You got to ball out.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It is happy hour in the sports bar. If you're just joining us, you want to get caught up inside the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can catch up on anything you may have missed. If you're a podcast listener, you can get our conversation with Matthew Collar or PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In, wherever you get your podcasts, including the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're streaming live on YouTube as well. You can watch us live on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Always go back and watch any show that you may have missed on YouTube as well. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
The whole situation with Sam Darnold and the Vikings is just fascinating because, as Matthew pointed out, when has this ever happened where you had a quarterback lead a team to a record of 14-3? It wasn't freakish. It wasn't like your Bears one year. They were winning games in weird fashions. That was okay. Yes, you lost to the Lions, and yes, you lost to the Rams. And, oh, there's old Sam Darnold. It's shocking to me that they're going to let him walk out the door without anything. You could possibly tag and trade him. There are teams with cap space that could absorb that.
I have plenty of Viking fan friends in my life, and I don't know that a lot of them are the fans that are giving Collar a hard time for saying Darnold should come back. I think maybe I'm friends with Viking fans that actually watch the game and can process oh, yeah, he just won us 14 games. Yes, you have J.J. McCarthy, and yeah, he's 22, and he can still get some seasoning learning from a guy like Sam Darnold. But I think ultimately what it comes down to, I think Darnold's going to get his. I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to make more money with another team. I think if you are the Titans, if you are the Raiders, if you're the Giants, I mean, wouldn't you want to take a shot? If you're Brian Daboll, you don't think Brian Daboll isn't arrogant enough to be like, yeah, give me Sam Darnold. I can work with that guy.
Are you kidding me? Like, Sam Darnold is going to get paid. That's why he's out the door. Like, it's going to be too rich for Minnesota to be like, yeah, we're not going to do that to pay.
Pittsburgh? I mean, you put him in Pittsburgh?
Is Pittsburgh going to do that, though? That would seem very un-Steeler-like. They're always looking for value. I think you're going to overpay for Sam Darnold. And part of the equation is that this quarterback draft class, we look at this closely. It's not that good. If you want to talk up Shadur Sanders, if you want to talk up Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, these are guys that any other year they'd be drafted in the second or third round.
It is fascinating, and I maintain, and I've said this all along, I think with free agency, that is the first domino that needs to fall for us to kind of really get a sense of what teams are going to be targeting when we get to the end of April and the NFL draft. It'll all start to make sense once we have a destination for Sam Darnold. Until we have that, all bets are off.
I would think, too, that if you were the Titans or any other team, aren't you picking up the phone asking, hey, what about JJ? Would you move him?
Right.
Would
Yes.
you move him?
Yes. I mean, if you're Kevin O'Connell and you have that belief, we had 14 wins. I'm coach of the year. Sam Darnold was my quarterback. We reclaimed him off the scrap heap. Let's ride this thing out. Yeah.
The other thing, too, is go back to, I'm going to draw the analogy here. Terry Pagula once let go of Jason Bottrill, according to Paul Hamill, because he felt like he wasn't being heard. This is a decision that, honestly, you have to go to the owner and say, what do you think? Like, if you want long-term job security.
Quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback really is the owner's decision on this.
It is quarterback. We're here for you at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Happy hour in the sports bar.
Brad in Rochester. What's up, Brad?
Hey, talking about Darnold, he's going to be a New York Giant because Dable and Shane, one, they did look him over when they were looking for Josh Allen. And that means that they've seen him before, at least Joe Shane has, and they want to keep their jobs. So the only thing they can do is get someone who will actually win them games rather than a rookie.
Yeah.
And the other question I got for you guys, if you had a chance to get Garrett, Metcalf, or Kirk, or just two of the three, who, if you're Buffalo, would you go after?
Garrett, and Garrett.
I mean, I like Metcalf. I like Metcalf a lot. I maintain I don't think Garrett's getting dealt. I think Cleveland's going to hold on to Garrett. I like the prospect of Garrett. If he becomes available, if he does get traded and the Bills aren't the team he gets traded to, I'll be like, oh. But when you look at what Max Crosby got paid today, folks, that should be a slap of reality to the face.
Well, okay. Can we agree that we think it's this year, but if it's not this year, it's certainly going to be next year? Josh Allen will get his new contract in Buffalo, and at that point, he will be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Does that sound like this is going to happen? Of course. It will happen at some point. It will benefit the Bills short term. Okay. Now you're doing that, and you're also going to make another player the highest defensive or the highest non-quarterback paid in the league. We all want to make believe, hey, the salary cap isn't real. You know what is real? Cash. Cash is real. So you're going to have to go to the owner twice here. How bad does Terry Pagula want to win a Super Bowl? I'm sorry. The more I think about this danger, it's a dream and a wish. And I'm starting to kind of let go a little bit here on Myles Garrett because there's going to be other teams that are going to offer you more draft capital. There's going to be the issue of, okay, can we actually afford to pay this? And number three, maybe, as you're pointing out accurately, the Browns could just brown here, be like, nope, we're not doing anything.
You mentioned DK Metcalf, Brad, and thanks for the call at 866-4326. Yes, today, the report, he's been asked to be traded. The Seahawks are going to entertain that. He is entering the last year of his second contract, due a base salary of $18 million, but of course we'll be looking for a new deal as part of the trade. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, and I love the idea of DK Metcalf with the Buffalo Bills, very high on that idea. Always have loved the player. I know you could say, oh, he's emotional. And like that guy is talent.
Yeah, we know emotional. Where on the dig scale does that fit?
Yeah, he's talent.
Yeah.
He is that kind of guy, and he is a weapon that they don't have in this offense. He's a fit. He would work for the Buffalo Bills. Before you even talk about the compensation, what would that extension look like? Spot Trek has his valuation, his annual average, I should say. What did I say earlier? $26.1 million average annual salary. And if you're a team that has more cap space, like, say, New England, I think you could probably offer that and more. I don't know that the Bills are going to be able to match what a team like New England could offer DK Metcalf. And New England's been very vocal. We need to get weapons. We're going to get weapons. We're going to spend. They've got the space to do it. And their picks just have a little bit more value than the Bills' picks do. So I love the idea I hope something like that were to happen for the Buffalo Bills. It would be great, and we've got insiders on X saying, don't count out the Buffalo Bills. I feel like every insider just knows if you say there's a player available, the Bills Mafia is going to be like, we want him. Let's get him. Don't rule him out. He would be fantastic.
Well, yes, but would you rather have another guy that maybe is a little bit older? Maybe you're paying in the same salary range, maybe a little bit less, but you're not giving up a second-round pick. And I think that would be what Seattle would be looking for. Okay, if Diggs went for a second-round pick, sure as hell, DK Metcalf is going to go for a second-round pick. Honestly, I want to hold on to the draft picks, Danger. Devontae Adams, you could sell me on too easily. Yes, Adams is 32 years old, but I don't think you need to give him this. Maybe it looks like a 5-year deal, but it's not really.
He still has game.
He does.
He still has game. How about the guy that was hanging out and palling around with Josh Allen during his bachelor party last night?
Okay, who knew? And if anybody knows the backstory here, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. It's not a trivia question. Honestly, I don't know. How did Josh Allen and Christian Kirk get to be good friends? Here this was. I had my bachelor party on a Saturday night. Danger, did you have yours on a Saturday night?
No, mine was, I think it was on a weeknight.
Was it really?
I think so, yeah.
Come on.
We did a booze cruise. We went out on Canandaigua Lake on a pontoon boat, and we played cards and drank and smoked cigars and came back to the sandbar.
Oh, I did the cliche thing, so. But
yeah.
anyways, thinking of my younger days.
What cliche thing are you? Hey, everybody, let's welcome them on in. It's a bachelor party. Welcome to Blondie's. Eugene, you've been summoned to the champagne room. Say hi to Jade while you're back there. Jade, stage 3.
Yeah, no, bringing that up only because last night it was Josh Allen's bachelor party. Yes, on a Tuesday night, watching the golf league. How wholesome is that? Just going out to a sporting event with your guys, and there's Dalton Kincaid, there's Sam Darnold. Now, remember when Josh kind of walked by Sam Darnold at the NFL Honors, like, oh, I guess they're not friends. No, they're friends enough to where Darnold was at his bachelor party. And Christian Kirk, what's that all about?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what that connection is or was or could be. I don't love the idea of Christian Kirk with the Buffalo Bills. You could say, oh, outside guy, outside threat, speed guy. He played the majority of his snaps in Jacksonville from the slot. So I don't know if that's a fit with the Bills. I don't know that he completely gives you what a guy like Metcalf would give you.
Yeah, Sal Capaccio, Christian Kirk and Josh Allen are very good friends. Yeah. How, though? Honestly.
This is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is becoming all of us. Josh Allen talking about his offseason last night during the golf league.
Transition to the offseason. Football aside, what do you plan on doing in the offseason? I know you're here having some of the boys' trip. I always see you at the Masters every year. What's on the offseason agenda for you from a fun perspective?
From a fun perspective, obviously this is a pretty cool week for me.
Yeah.
At the same time, just honestly doing whatever my fiance wants to do right now, right?
There you go.
I'm a smart man. I get it. She was in Buffalo this past season, and
I'm assuming he wants it out.
Whatever I can do to help out, that's what I'm gonna do.
Hard left.
But there's some golf involved in there too.
Smart man.
Wow, smart man. Now
you had to think about it there for a second. Like, this is a really great week. I'm having a blast. This is awesome. I'm with my boys, but yeah, I'm going to do whatever my fiance tells me to do. You know what Josh Allen needs? He needs a couple of beers.
I think
a couple of beers.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, wouldn't he have had a couple beers? Normally, you decline those interviews, but he. Gosh, I'm happy he's under contract. Like, once upon a time, like, there was the best in the game and married the Hollywood actress. Nope, you're not going to be playing in Edmonton anymore. You're playing in Los Angeles.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a different era, but you can make it work.
I mean, I imagine he has more fun at the golf league with his buddies than he's going to have on a red carpet with his wife, his future wife, his fiance.
Are we led to believe that if he's having his bachelor party now, the wedding's in the spring or something like that?
It has to be this summer. I'd imagine it's this summer.
Where's, like, the paparazzi on this?
Yeah. You'll fly under the radar a little bit here, I think, if you're Josh Allen in Buffalo and Haley Steinfeld, who's, Talented.
And by the way, she comes from wealth. That's her uncle, Jake Steinfeld, bodied by Jake.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, I mean, she's carved her own path here in Hollywood. Yeah, that's a wedding overseas in Europe somewhere, right? That's a really – and that by that way, we're like you could say, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to just make it exclusive with family. And that way Josh Allen doesn't have to feel bad he's not inviting over his whole offensive line or whatever it may be.
What am I going to do? Well, I'm having a blast right now. And when this is over, I'm going to Oh, yeah. I'm going to do exactly what my fiance wants me to do. Because she had to spend last season in Buffalo with me. So whatever she wants, that is what I will do. Well played, sir. Well played. Smart man. He knows. What else? We mentioned Max Crosby. Did we mention Max Crosby yet? You did in your update.
I did in my update. Yeah, from the standpoint of Myles Garrett, like that's where the bar would be set.
Correct.
You know, that's how much it would be. Good on Max Crosby. I'm just wondering, okay, now where do the Raiders kind of go? Are they signaling that they're going to not, build this long term, but they're actually going to try to compete here? I guess that's a good place to start by taking care of one of your own.
I wonder what they do at quarterback. Like, there's a part of me that really does believe that Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll will reunite. Like, hey, we kind of both got fired from Seattle. What do you think? One last ride?
Yeah.
What do you say? But what do you say, pal? See if we can bring back some of the magic. Because it doesn't seem like Russ is going to come back to Pittsburgh. If you believe what people are saying out of the combine, that they are leaning more towards Justin Fields returning rather than Russell Wilson returning. But it is Darnold. It is that Darnold domino that needs to fall first, I think, before we start to see some of these other names, including Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. Gardner Minshew will not be back with the Raiders in 2025. They've released him after he signed his 2-year deal. Last offseason, 2-7 in 9 starts last season for the Raiders.
9 times.
Bills aren't bringing back Trubisky, right? And then, for that matter, they're not going to bring in Minshew. They got their guy Mike White, right? And then they have Bouchel as a camp arm, right?
Did you share the bit of Bills news?
I did not. Thank you for reminding me. So this is Adam Schefter tweeting out that Damar Hamlin has new representation and that they're looking forward to free agency.
Oh, good.
He's not coming back, and I don't think any Bills fan should be upset by that.
He's a great story, great Buffalo Bill. Somebody will remember forever. Forever. The history of the team. Everybody will remember that game. Everybody will remember that player. Everybody will remember what he represents. We'll remember the game after where it looked like they weren't fully in it, and Naeem Hines actually saves the day. I mean, it was miraculous. It was spectacular, an unbelievable theater. And at the end of the day, we were talking with Matthew Collar last hour, and he's like, look at the Philadelphia Eagles roster. They're good everywhere. Turns out that's what you need to be if you're going to win the Super Bowl. You could do better than Damar Hamlin. I think you could do better than Damar Hamlin.
If you're the auto dealership that does the endorsement, are you having a meeting right now? Like, no, we need him to stay.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, the B's on every billboard here.
I wonder if the contract is concurrent with the endorsement. Yeah, that's interesting. So there you go. Hamlin has new representation, and he'll be looking for sounds like he'll be looking for a new place, because if they're putting that out there, if Hamlin's agent is putting that out there through Schefter, then they haven't received any sort of offer from the Bills.
4 hours and 26 minutes. Like, if you went to this game, you're like, okay, guys, wrap it up. I'm talking about the spring training game that started at 1 o'clock. We've been watching this whole time. Tigers.
17-7. Tigers. I was only kind of half joking. Like, did they do a mercy rule in spring training? It was 12-0 in the 5th inning. I'm like, end this. What are we doing?
They do a rule now where you don't go to extra innings. So you can have ties in spring training baseball. That's kind of new. But along those same lines, guys, 4.5-hour game? What are we doing?
Yeah, a little gross. We'll get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
Yeah, as one of the shows that's being preempted right now, that we have an end date here at Danger for Around the Horn, and what that may mean. MSG Network possibly going bankrupt. What might this mean for us locally? We will explore that. And I want to get Mike Danger's take here on who should be the halftime act at the World Cup.
Oh.
No, you didn't hear about this.
I did. I saw something cross my feed, and because I heard the band that is in charge of determining who's going to be I'm less than optimistic, but we'll discuss.
Okay.
We'll get to that and more next. We've got a round of shots. Don't forget about last call as well. You can have the final word in the sports bar. Join us at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Max Crosby staying with the Las Vegas Raiders, getting a 3-year, $106.5 million extension, $91.5 that guaranteed. Crosby now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Steve Tasker has some thoughts.
I think a lot of people like Max Crosby because you just get the feeling when you watch him play, the guy doesn't have an off switch.
No.
I thought that would be a guy the Bills might have a shot at early on in the free, because with the new head coach, Pete Carroll coming in, maybe they'd wipe the decks clean, start with, save the money, but obviously not. And I think they're smart too to do it.
Meanwhile, Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade. Rochester Americans on the road this weekend, first of two coming up tomorrow night. The Amerks taking on Laval. Gene Battaglia, sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
The first year off an Achilles is one of the hardest things to do. You've seen it happen with Kirk. Kirk had a down year. It happened with Aaron. I mean, he struggled, like you said, early on, but he got better as the season went. I think with all the doubt and all the negativity around Aaron Rodgers, he needs to retire, things like that, he's getting cut by the Jets. I think he's going to come back and have I know he's 42 or 41.
Are you going to say MVP?
No, I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town.
Is that tampering? Max Crosby there on Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders. Tampering!
I think since the Jets already announced he's gone, even though that's not officially official.
Oh, right,
I think that would be acceptable. Just how when Tom Brady somehow caught up with
Matt Stafford
on a slope.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's no tampering this time of year.
Rodgers to the Raiders. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, if he wants to get his head kicked in that division, if he wants to be the fourth best quarterback in that division.
He would be the fourth best quarterback in that division. It's time for a round of shots.
Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff attributing his team's lack of energy against San Jose to the fact that the Sabres had to battle back from being down 3-0 the night before in Montreal. Not acceptable, Lindy. San Jose also played on Monday night, and San Jose also went to overtime. So how did they have the energy? It was San Jose, the team with the worst record in the NHL, coming in and making it look easy. San Jose now 4-23-1 all-time in Buffalo. Thursday night, the team playing Stanley Cup champion Florida, but listen anyway.
Let's go, boys. You know what time it is. It's time for greatness. We're not going to root for anything other than a longer streak than what we had. We had 13 earlier this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can we get to 15 before the end of the year? How many games are left?
I'm just surprised. I think people are so soured on the Sabres.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Like my take that, okay, Lindy needs to go. Just let Seth Apper kind of do his thing. You got to understand, like, who right now sitting out there be like, yep, I want that job. No, if you let Lindy go now, it'll be Apper. And I said, give him an audition. Sean writing in, I guess that's one way to tank. Hire the worst candidate possible. What is all this anti-Seth Apper stuff?
Seth Apper is not doing what he needs to do in Buffalo, and he's going to get caught up in the wash. If there is a house cleaning, if he's part of it, he's going to be part of it. I hate that, but that's the reality.
That is the reality. Like Lindy, you can move off of it if you wanted to. It was only a 2-year deal, which is dangerous. That is highly unusual. It was almost like, okay, before you start your retirement, Lindy, just come help the franchise that loves you and train Seth Appert on the fly. This couldn't have gone any worse this year.
Been terrible.
Well, there's another wrinkle to this. Where are we going to be watching Sabres hockey next year? Front Office Sports and others reporting that the MSG network is likely to go bankrupt by the end of the month.
Nice.
And now, their bread and butter certainly is the Knicks and Rangers, but they also have their Western New York feed. What does this mean for the Sabres? No idea.
Oh, who cares?
More worried about where I'm going to be able to watch the Knicks.
Oh, who cares?
The Sabres. I'm going to cancel Fubo.
Oh, who cares?
Cares about MSG network. Get out of here. Give me my nights back.
Oh, who cares?
What if they go to like the Guardians because you had all those Bally Sports things go belly up?
You remember, like, when we were all cutting the cord and everybody was saying, okay, let's get what's the best streamer out there? We're comparing. Well, who's got what? Okay, YouTube has yes, but they don't have SNY. My sole reason for being a Fubo guy, I can get MSG. I got to watch the Sabres. I don't care anymore. I'll cancel. I don't care. I do not care. It's so bad.
How much, though, would it actually cost to start your own streaming service if you're the Pagulas? We're going to, make this a Western New York sort of, probably a lot of money, right?
I would imagine it's quite the investment. And do you have an organization there in the Buffalo Sabres that just can justify the expense of offering up your own network?
One of the things that's being kicked around, because we're kind of new to this, I was going to say is baseball already went through this. The NBA went through this. The Cleveland Guardians, they don't have a home. If you want to watch Guardian baseball, it's $99 for the year. Okay, that's a deal. I don't think we'd be getting that. One of the solutions being kicked around here, perhaps, is Amazon coming in and cutting deals with teams. So if you subscribe to Amazon, then there would be a certain tier that you could go watch everything there. I don't know. Like you said, it's going to be paying for this and that and every other thing.
No. I take an ice pick and wedge it into my eye before you talk to me about spending more money, on this unserious franchise. I don't care. Oh, MSG is going out of business?
Oh, who cares?
Sorry. Don't care. Bye-bye.
It's official. ESPN has set an end date for their show Around the Horn. The final episode will air on May 23rd. Who gets the honor of being one of the 4 panelists on the final episode? Should it go to the old-timers Bob Ryan and Woody Page, perhaps? While a new betting show is in development, a 30-minute sports center will air at 5 o'clock weekdays leading into PTI.
Bob Ryan doesn't look well. I mean, he will be on that show to the very last day, and when that show is done, I pray for Bob Ryan. Woody Page is like one of the original takesmen, right? Denver?
Yeah, but yeah, they honestly, that's what they should do here. Is Jackie McCullum? I don't even know if she's still with us. I'm trying to think of who was back on that show way back when.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of them are still on there, and those are the two that I feel like are always on there. And Bob Ryan looks like he's been on that show for a good 50 years. I mean, it's
jarring.
It is jarring. You see a few fresh faces. We see Marcel, our buddy Marcel Louis Jacques is on there from time to time. So the new show being developed has to be a betting show, has to be a sports betting show, right?
If they have their deal with Penn National, ESPN Bet is not actually ESPN Bet. That's Penn National Betting Company paying, what is it? It's something crazy. It's close to $1 billion over 10 years.
Just for the name.
But there's an opt-out coming up in 2026. Guess what's going to happen, Danger? They don't want to lose that revenue. So goodbye to a show that people actually kind of liked. Get out of here with that. Now, is PTI the next one to go? I'm not so sure. NBA and NASCAR both had their X accounts hacked. Both yesterday announcing they had begun their own crypto coins.
Nice.
Buy right here. Yes, because buying crypto online, that is the quickest way, Mike Danger, to get rich.
Sure. Who can say at this stage of where we are? Good luck out there.
Maybe that's why a lot of people...
Every man for themselves.
The World Cup is coming to North America in 2026. By the way, that'll be really fun because we're sharing this with... Never mind.
With our neighbors to the north and south who are big fans of ours right now.
Yeah, they love us. This is my
joke.
With this, the final's going to be here, though, in the States at MetLife Stadium. For the first time, the World Cup is going to feel a little like the Super Bowl in this regard. They're going to have a halftime show, a musical act, right there at the soccer game. Any guesses who that might be, Danger?
So I heard that Coldplay is in charge of determining who the halftime show is going to be.
What?
That's what I heard.
Is that a joke?
No. That crossed my feed today. Is that not accurate? What did you hear? Anything?
No, I'm asking honestly.
No,
That's serious?
I heard that Coldplay was in charge of determining who the halftime show was going to be for the World Cup final. You can check me on that if I'm wrong, but I know I saw that cross my feed. And when I saw it cross my feed, I'm like, oof, okay. Who's doing halftime at the World Cup? Why would Coldplay not take that gig for themselves?
Okay. Coldplay's Chris Martin and the band's manager Phil Harvey will be involved helping FIFA plan the lineup for the first ever halftime show.
I can make a safe prediction. It will not be Kendrick Lamar. I can go out on a ledge a little bit further and say it's probably not going to be a Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar mashup. I can't rule out Rihanna, but I'm not going to say Rihanna. The question is, who has something to promote in the summer of 2026?
If we could bring back from the afterlife, who would be somebody that would be say Italy was in the final?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Bruno.
Bruno would be the guy. I'm baiting Mike Danger.
You don't have to hire Chris Martin from Coldplay, okay? You hire us here in the sports bar, and you say, all right, who do you guys want? Who's going to be the halftime performer for the World Cup? And we'll be like, yeah, it's good. Oh, this is not Bruno Martini. Where's my Bruno?
Did Joe Capagreco take it down now that Bill season's over?
Hold, please.
Oh, gosh. This vast library that Mike Danger is searching through right now.
No, I've got it.
You got it.
Yeah. Who's going to be your halftime show? Yeah, we're gonna invite in Bruno Martino. He's going to come in. He's going to slay. Why? Because he's Italian. This will kill.
Does this put you in a better mood right now, Danger?
Sure does.
Yeah. Welcome to the Sports Bar. He's Danger. I'm Battaglia.
Moderate to severe Italian wife.
I like
That's
to think
right.
mine is moderate. There we go.
No, mine is more on the severe side. Moderate to severe Italian wife. Yeah. That's my vote. Let's get Bruno Martino. Well, let's dig up Bruno Martino, prop him up. If it's Chris Martin and Coldplay doing the work to try and figure out who's going to be the halftime show, I don't have high hopes. It'll be a global artist or an international celebration or a bunch of artists that are bigger worldwide that we've never heard of.
You realize that's the first time I've heard that song since the Bills defeated the Ravens in the divisional round.
Don't worry, man. Victory Monday's on the horizon.
We got to do something for the Amerks, but you win a playoff series, it's got to be good.
Leo Shuffle.
Leo
Shuffle.
Leo.
Let's take a break and come back with last call. You can have the final say in the sports bar. Our number is 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Last call on the Sports Bar at 866-4326, 866-4FAN. Fun afternoon, as we like to have every afternoon here in Rochester's only local sports talk show. If you missed Matthew Collar, the Purple Insider, or PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetMGM network, you can get either of those conversations wherever you get your shows. Just search out the Sports Bar, and you will find us.
Isn't it crazy to think this NFL? Like last year, a guy gets paid, was it 1 year, $10 million? Okay, great. Afterthought. My gosh, what a great deal for Minnesota. That's the first domino that has to fall, not just for free agency here when it comes to the quarterback, really for the draft overall. Because if Tennessee decides to make that investment or whatever, Sam Darnold is the first domino. Crazy.
We were talking about him a lot back in that year, that draft class, right? The 2018 draft class.
Yeah, we did this little bit, and he was the object of your attention back then.
I loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him. I know his last year at USC wasn't as good as his year prior, but watching him in, I think it was the Rose Bowl. I want to say it was against Penn State.
It was. That was a fantastic game. Was that the game he went up with the band and started conducting afterwards?
He was rocking, man. He was absolutely dealing, and I'm like, that's a winner. You want that guy.
Fold for Darnold, I think it was.
Fold for Darnold, yeah. Darnold was the object of my affection for sure. I kind of like that he's had this resurgence. I'm not going to tell you that he's going to continue to be successful if he goes to a team like Tennessee. Nope, I won't put my neck out on the line for that one. But he'll get his, and he deserves it. He had a great season last year. Will he get it to the tune of $40 million? If the Vikings are willing to pay him $30 million, you know, what are these teams willing to pay him? That's what remains to be seen, and he is the domino. We're getting closer. We'll probably have more answers by the time we get to Monday. But until then, we'll continue to have some Bills conversations. DK Metcalf is going to be available via a trade. Should the Bills be involved in that, we'll talk to Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, and Buffalo Plus. We'll get our weekly Bills conversation in with Fatesy tomorrow afternoon at 3:25.
Yeah, I invite you to join us as well here tomorrow in the Sports Bar. Friday, we'll talk to Greg Thompson from Cover One as, the cap for the Buffalo Bills. Like, I would assume we're going to have some moves pretty soon here. So we'll talk to Greg Thompson coming up Friday.
Yeah, and good timing on that as well, now that we kind of have an idea of what a baseline for a new Myles Garrett extension could look like, knowing that Max Crosby cashed out on a 3-year, $106.5 million extension with $91.5 guaranteed. My goodness, is Garrett getting $95 million guaranteed with his next deal? 8-Ball says yes. We'll get to Greg Thompson, Cover One. He joins us at the end of the week here, coming up on Friday. JR Sport Brief is on the way next. Gene, I'm going to go watch some Minnesota State high school hockey because I'm a dork.
You do that, David.
Have a great night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow starting at 3 on The Fan.